I'd like to start with the Pledge of Allegiance, please. Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I'd like to call to order the December 18th, 2013 Planning Commission meeting. This is a regular meeting of the City of Milton Planning Commission. I'm Terry Herr, the chairperson for the commission. This is a 7-member commission appointed by the City of Milton Mayor and City Council, created for the purpose of holding public hearings and making recommendations on rezoning, use permits, concurrent variance applications, comprehensive land use plan, and plan map, and other related plans, and amendments to the zoning ordinance. I'd like to introduce the board members. We have Fred Edwards to my left, Paul Moore, Carol Burchett, Chris Dottie, Mark Bittner, and Peyton Jamison. The petitions will be heard in sequence listed on the posted agenda. I would like to acquaint you with some of the rules and procedures conducting this meeting. The applicant and all those speaking in support of an application will be allowed a total of 10 minutes to present the presentation, or the petition, excuse me. The applicant may choose to save some of the time for rebuttal following the presentation by the opposition. The opposition will be allowed a total of 10 minutes to present its position. If time remains, the opposition will be allowed to rebut. Since the burden of proof is upon the applicant will be allowed to make closing remarks, provided time remains within the allotted time. The staff of Community Development will be keeping track of the time and will inform you periodically of the remaining time for your presentation. Each speaker must fill out a speaker card before speaking and leave it with the staff member of the Community Development Department. All speakers will identify themselves by name, address, and organization, if applicable, before beginning their presentation. When an opponent of a rezoning action is made within 2 years immediately preceding the filing of the rezoning action being opposed, any campaign contributions aggregating $250 or more to local government official of the local government which shall consider the application, it shall be the duty of the opponent to file a disclosure with the governing authority of the representative local government at least 5 days prior to the Planning Commission meeting. A violation of the relevant state statute constitutes a misdemeanor. Therefore, if you have contributed $250 or more to a council member, or you have not filed disclosure prior to the Planning Commission meeting, the city attorney strongly suggests that you have someone else speak for your point of view.
Did you turn this on?
This,
So maybe if you get closer.
can you hear me a little better now? Okay. Each applicant has, there, it's much better. Yeah. Each applicant has been properly filled with, each application has been properly filed with the Department of Community Development. Signs have been posted on each site, and the matter has been advertised, and the notices have been mailed to property owners affected by this zoning, as required by the Milton zoning ordinance. The Planning Commission's recommendation will be forwarded to the City of Milton Mayor and City Council for final disposition. The Mayor and City Council hearing will be held approximately 3.5 weeks from this hearing on the third Monday of each month at 6 p.m. in council chambers. The Community Development Department has reviewed each application in conjunction with the various agencies and departments, both internal and external to the city. Staff's recommendations, findings, and conclusions are here before us in written form, which has been made available to all petitioners and to the public. Demonstration of any sort within the chamber is prohibited, so please refrain from any applause, dialogue with the person speaking, or outburst. Please turn off all cell phones, place them on silent. All remarks will be addressed by the Planning Commission. Please show the same respect to the person speaking that you will expect to receive yourself. In addition, the applicant shall not submit material to the planning commission during the meeting unless requested to do so by the commission. All material that you wish to be reviewed by the commission in consideration of your application should be submitted to the staff of the Community Development Department to be included in the normal distribution of packages to the commission. Finally, the applicant, if your petition is deferred in accordance with the Milton zoning ordinance, you are required to update or obtain a new sign for reposting. Failure to update or repost will result in further delay. There are no exceptions to this. I'd like to call for any general public comment at this time. This is not about any of the specific cases, but just if you have any comments that you want to make to the Planning Commission. The time will be limited to 2 minutes for each person, and we're going to limit that to a total of 14 minutes. Do we have anyone that wants to make a general statement?
I move we close public comment.
I second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, I'd like to make a motion that we move the agenda items that are being deferred this evening, which would be RZ 1320 at 16340 Birmingham Highway, and RZ 13-21 at 975 Birmingham Road and 575 Birmingham Highway, to move those up in the agenda before RZ 1318.
I move that we move them to the deferred items section of the agenda.
Second.
All in favor? Aye.
Okay, the first item for your consideration is the approval of action minutes from November 20th, 2013.
I've just got one item on the notes, Robin, that I'd like to consider amending the choice of, or to amend the phrasing.
Okay.
On page 3 of 4, with regard to the Jeff Runner application,
Okay.
on number 5, where it says to condition that artificial noise must come from the west side of the house. That's generally what I was putting forward in my motion. I think it might be more clear if it said that to condition that artificial noise may only be produced on the west side of the house.
Okay.
The intention is to keep all of it, whether it's inside or outside, to be emitted from that on the west side of the property.
So you would say to condition that artificial noise may only be
Produced
reduced,
on the west, or emitted,
emitted on the west side.
if everyone's okay with that. That was sort of a more clear intent of my motion that night. Anybody take issue with that?
No. I make a motion that we approve the October 23rd, 2013 Planning Commission meeting with the change in the to condition number 5, that the artificial noise may only be emitted on the west side.
Commissioner Edwards, could you say the November 20th? I think you said October 23rd.
Sorry,
November
20th.
20th.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Based on the rearrangement of the agenda, I will call right now RZ 13-20, 16340 Birmingham Highway, with additional frontage on New Bullpen Road containing a total of approximately 65.71 acres by Christopher Perry, to rezone from AG1 to CUP Community Unit Plan to develop 54 single-family residences. Staff has requested a deferral to the January 29th, 2014 meeting, Planning Commission meeting, to allow the applicant to revise the site plan for further study and for transportation to evaluate the traffic study. We do have the applicant here if you have any questions, and also let me ask the audience if there's, I have one card for this item, if there's anybody who would like to speak on this specific item. Okay, just seeing if Mr. Jones wants to make a statement, and then we'll have the opposition speak after that. Each side has 10 minutes to speak. Okay.
My name's Carl Jones. It's 730 Richmond Glen Drive, Alpharetta, 30004. After speaking with Robin at length, our application actually states that the rear setback would be 40 feet, and we've agreed to keep that a minimum of 50 feet. And then also I have given her tonight a site plan which delineated basically 8 lots that we would be utilizing the variance, pulling it to the front of the street there, and but no more than 30 feet, which our original application, I believe, had 20 feet. In those particular lots, we would be asking for 30 feet. And then we have relocated with the site plan I gave her tonight, the open space area. We've centrally located that and given better access for the residents in there. And then we're redoing the legal description to encompass the detention pond behind Jerry Thacker's property, and that legal will be in to Robin tomorrow morning or tomorrow. That's all I have, and we'd appreciate an approval of the deferral, and we'll do a full-blown presentation next month.
Thank you.
The first speaker is Crystal Matsuvich.
Hi, my name is Crystal Matusevich. I live at 15570 Birmingham Highway here in Milton, Georgia. My husband and I also own a business here at that same location, right around from the Birmingham Crossroads. A lot of what I have to say mostly with the RZ 1320 also deals with all of the others that want to rezone from Ag 1 to CUP up and down Birmingham Highway and Freemanville. According to the comprehensive land use plan that Milton has set forth, from what I understand, that entire northwest section is not supposed to be able to have a CUP zoning in order to maintain the rural character of that area. Each section of Milton has its own characteristics that separate it out. That was one of the reasons that Milton was formed, why we went and separated off from Alpharetta and Fulton County, was to try and preserve this. If you rezone for the CUP, I'm not saying that you can't develop at all, but by allowing the CUPs of that area for any of these, you set forth other CUPs to be also agreed upon and allowed in there. And then you basically are turning that area that is supposed to be special into Alpharetta and every other place that's been done like that. And at that point, you've wasted all the money to even form Milton and have a comprehensive land use plan, and it destroys everything. So, like I said, I'm not against developing and having like R1s and R2s and things like that. But in this particular area of Milton, that is not constructive for what Milton is supposed to be. Even though you end up with higher density in there and you get more citizens in here that will pay taxes. Your taxes are then going to turn around and then go towards having to fix the roads, expand the roads to accommodate the traffic. You're going to have more emergency services, which takes up money, lights, everything about that, schools, recreation areas. So all of the money that you've pulled in taxes end up being used and not really expanding your overhead and all. It just kind of cancels each other out. So again, it kind of defeats the purpose. The whole point is for Milton to be special. And there are areas where CUPs are perfectly acceptable. Not only that, but when you start getting that many houses in areas, you have to have sewer. Sewer's not supposed to be out in that area. Again, it goes against what Milton is supposed to be. So I hope that the Planning Commission will think about this, not only with this aspect, but like I said, my comments are across the board for everything up and down Birmingham Crossroads, all up and down Birmingham Highway, Birmingham Road, Freemanville. And I think this is really important. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, our next speaker is Julie Zonner Bailey.
Good evening. My name is Julie Zonner Bailey, and I reside at 255 Hickory Flat Road in Milton, Georgia. And I do recognize that there has been a request for deferral, but because the case was publicly advertised, I'd be remiss if I didn't at least make a few comments as you anticipate potentially approving a deferral. In particular, what I'd like to address is CUPs in particular, and on this particular parcel. CUPs are not appropriate for the Birmingham character area, and this is within the Birmingham character area, that being the case that's before you currently. AG1 development standards are appropriate for this area of Milton, as clearly reflected in the comprehensive land use plan that this Planning Commission, as well as the City of Milton and other boards and thousands of citizens, helped to approve. The CLUP expressly, in fact, does not allow for CUPs because of the inappropriate use of them in the more rural areas of Milton. In the last 7 years, I believe that there have been no requests for CUPs within this particular character area. This month, excluding the deferrals to next month, we have at least 5 CUP requests on the table, including the case that was just requested for deferral. Fulton County may have granted them prior to Milton's incorporation, but we have had none in 7 years. This is clearly a turning point, and it's really important that decisions that you make and that you recommend think about this as the impact as well on future applications and the precedents that could and will be set depending on your recommendations. In most of these cases, the AG1 zoning should remain and should prevail as the standard. Development absolutely can occur. Residential development can absolutely occur, but it needs to occur according to the agricultural standards that are clearly articulated in the comprehensive land use plan. CUPs are appropriate for the more rural areas of Milton because without the AG1 standards, you start to negatively impact the lay of the land, the natural terrain that otherwise would perhaps provide you some limitations. When you remove those, you remove the setbacks, or you give that expansive sort of flexibility, you really remove the very standards that were put in place to help to define the Birmingham character area. And so the arbitrary removal of setbacks, and in some cases the reduction of front setbacks to as little as 20 feet, allows for a density and uniformity that would negatively impact the entirety of the area. And so if you look and contrast AG1 standards to the CUP standards, AG1 standards are very express in terms of what those side yards and setbacks should be. The CUP effectively doesn't require them. It allows very broad flexibility. One of the things that I would, along with other citizens who may not be speaking this evening but plan to speak obviously when this returns after the deferral, is that if we could see as part of this deferral process a comparative between the AG1 development standards and that which is being requested under the CUP, that sort of a mathematical comparison would be a very valuable tool for citizens as well as for yourselves, as well as for staff to be able to identify what would that development that's being proposed look like using the agricultural standards that are allowable and legal versus that which represents the rezoning. And so not only on this case but on others, we as citizens would ask that we have that sort of mathematical comparison to be able to see, again, the comparative of AG1 standards on a particular parcel versus that with the CUP. And so in particular, and again, I surely don't want to take anybody's time more than what's required. I suspect that you guys potentially will consider a deferral to the next Planning Commission meeting. During that period, though, we really ask for those that come before you in the Birmingham character area that you consider that the AG1 standards are appropriate. The comp plan says it's appropriate, and expressly the comp plan does not allow for CUPs in this particular area. With that, I just appreciate your time and thank you for your consideration.
We have no other speakers for this item.
Yeah, I move we close public comment.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
I have a couple questions. Yeah, I have a question for the applicant. Mr. Jones?
Yes, sir.
In your, I think either you or staff said it when they were asking for the deferral tonight, is that part of the time that you're intending to take between now and the next hearing is also to work with the community on some of the things that are being asked for in the application. Is that a true statement?
Yes, sir. We're more than open to meeting with whoever.
And is that going to
Community.
be by scheduled meeting that you will post, or is that going to be upon request of members of the community of you? How do you intend to manage that?
I'll be glad to contact Ms. Bailey, and we've already had one community meeting at Richmond Glen Clubhouse. I sent out 52 letters, and we had 3 people of those invited, and we had an additional 12 people there that were not part of that invited list. But we welcome anyone
Great.
in the Milton area.
Okay, thank you. I have a question for staff too. In the comments made by Ms. Zonner Bailey, I think that there is potentially some value to the consideration that she's asked for us to look at.
We've
with
also
the-
asked the applicants already,
Okay.
as far as the mathematical
Yeah.
comparison, yes. And
So is that a request of the applicant for them to produce that map?
yes, and in fact, actually, Mr. Jones, what he submitted is fairly different from his original, is that I think he's only asking 8 or 10 lots to have the variance, and the rest of them would be AG1. So, once this is back before you, it will be mainly an AG1 subdivision with exceptions. And the reason behind that is that after in 07 or 08, after there was a blanket variance for another rezoning, you all, as well as the council, supported a regulation that no more than 10% of the lots, or up to 6 or 7 lots, be varied upon. Therefore, it kicks it into, at least at this point in time, a CUP. So,
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? I'll make a motion to defer RZ 13-20 to the January 29th, 2014 Planning Commission meeting.
I second it.
Can I ask for a friendly amendment to your motion? That you also ask the applicant to be available to at least one meeting with the community if requested, and that the applicant also provide the math that the staff has just suggested would be helpful to us in the consideration on the change to the
Okay.
AG1 versus
Sounds like he's
CUP.
open to that, so I don't have a problem with that.
Great,
Okay.
thank you. So Robin, is it just by that request, does it become a part of the motion?
yeah, I'll include it, yes.
Okay.
Okay,
Any
there's no
other?
request in a second. You're good.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay,
That's deferred.
the next item up is RZ 1321, 975 Birmingham Road and 15755 Birmingham Highway, containing a total of 22.3 acres by Acadia Homes and Neighborhoods LLC to rezone from mixed use in AG1 to CUP to develop 55 single-family residences. The applicant has requested deferral to the January 29th Planning Commission meeting to allow further review of the development and to work with the community. I believe the applicant is here if you have any questions for him. And right now, I don't have any cards. Does anybody want to speak on this item? Okay. Oh, Julie. Okay, here, let me reset. You want to, okay. Come on up, and let me just reset the clock.
Good evening. And again, I believe that this case has been at least requested for deferral, but because it was publicly advertised, as you consider this deferral and as you consider it, if indeed you vote to defer it, the things that many citizens would ask that you consider is that the rezoning that is before you this evening and that would, in theory, be before you again in another month is clearly in violation of the Comprehensive Land Use Plan, is in violation of the Birmingham Master Plan, it's in violation of the Birmingham Overlay specifically. It also expressly is in violation of an agreement that was signed by the current landowner of that northeast quadrant when it was originally rezoned. And so for all of those reasons, and a multitude of others, which we will articulate in greater length and with more specificity if indeed this comes back to you on January 29th. But for all of those reasons, the citizens of the Birmingham area and beyond would ask that this be denied. The Comprehensive Land Use Plan and those agreements in place are the law, and we ask that those be upheld. And we ask that you very strongly consider those policies that are in place that were voted upon by the City Council, by the Planning Commission. Those were put in place for a reason. And the law is something that citizens should be able to count on. And this is indeed about property rights, and it's about the property rights of everybody that lives within the city of Milton. And the collective property rights of all of us who are citizens expect these land use policies and plans and ordinances to be upheld. The other thing that's very critical is, and you will subsequently get all of this information during this deferral period, but the agreement that was signed by the current landowner expressly says that the private sewage system that supports the publics, that it would never supply sewage treatment to the the southeast quadrant. That's express language that was adopted legally. So those are all things, and I don't know if you yet have that agreement, but that agreement has been provided to staff. That needs to be part of your consideration as well. But for all the legal reasons that typically land use policies need to be reviewed, we ask that you take and provide your thorough diligence on all of those reasons that case should be denied, whether that be heard this evening or heard during a deferral. I'll save the rest of our comments, obviously, for a future date, but would really be remiss if I didn't take this opportunity to address you this evening. So, again, respectfully, thank you.
Please, no applause.
I don't have any other comment cards.
I move we close public comment.
I second it.
Any motions? Any questions?
Any questions from anybody?
Nope.
Okay. Move. Yeah, we can move. What's the number?
RC 1321.
I move we defer RZ 13-21, 975 Birmingham Road to the next Planning Commission meeting.
Second.
All in favor?
Okay. The next item is RZ 13-17, 13980 Freemanville Road by Fuquay and Associates to rezone from AG1 agricultural to CUP community unit plan to develop 9 single-family residences on 16.98 acres. This item was deferred to this meeting to allow it to be reviewed by the Design Review Board on December 3rd, 2013. And Ms. Kathy Field will be presenting the staff report.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the Planning Commission. You have on this first slide an aerial showing the proposed applicant's site.
Yeah. Can you turn it up a little bit?
I'll try.
This next slide shows the current zoning for the area, which is AG1. This slide shows the 2030 future land use plan. In this property, the land use calls for agricultural, equestrian, and estate residential. It's a copy of the site plan submitted on October the 3rd. In terms of the subject site and background, the subject site contains 16.42 acres. The parcel is currently under development with 9 lots zoned AG1 agricultural. 9 lots of single-family homes are proposed. This site is the final phase of an existing subdivision, which is Triple Crown, which is Zone CUP Community Unit Plan as well. The site is located within the Agricultural Equestrian Estate Residential designation of the 2030 Comprehensive Plan. The original design of this final phase contained a total of 22.1 acres to develop 13 lots, of which 4.12 acres have been since sold to an adjacent property owner, leaving this petition a total of 16.98 acres. A current LDP was issued by the Community Development Department on August 4, 2013 for 9 lots under the AG1 Agricultural Zoning District. The applicant is requesting a rezoning to CUP to build 9 single-family residences at an overall density of 0.53 units per acre. Therefore, no change in the number of lots is requested as part of the request to rezone from AG1 to CUP. The following are proposed building setbacks and development standards for individual lots. CUP allows for the applicant to specify building setbacks, and accordingly, he is requesting the following. Front yard setback, 30 feet. Side yard setback, 10 feet. Side yard setback adjacent to a street, 20 feet. Rear yard, 40 feet. Setback adjacent to Freemanville Road, 50 feet. Adjacent to AG1, 50 feet. No lot would have direct access to Freemanville Road. A minimum heated floor area, 2,800 square feet. In terms of landscape strips and buffers, to provide a 40-foot undisturbed buffer and an additional 20-foot no improvement setback for lots along Freemanville Road, identified as lots 3, 4, and 5, and were sparsely vegetated, replant in a natural fashion per the approval of the city arborist. Submit a landscape plan to arborist for the preservation of the rural view shed. Architectural elevations for lots 3, 4, and 5, which are adjacent to Freemanville Road, shall be reviewed and approved by the Community Development Department with assistance of the city architect prior to the issuance of a building permit. These 2 requirements are included in the recommended conditions. In regard to the impact on the school system, it is estimated that the number of children generated by this development would be in the approximation of 6 to 10. Regarding the fiscal analysis of the amount of expenditure for services versus revenue generated through taxes, over a 20-year period, we're looking at a positive of $155,527. Public involvement. On October 29, 2013, the applicant was present at the Community Zoning Information Meeting held at Milton City Hall. There were 3 residents from the community in attendance. No one expressed opposition to the rezoning. Public comments. Staff has not received any comments from the public regarding this petition. Public participation report. The applicant held their public participation meeting on Monday, November the 4th. There were 3 people in attendance for the meeting. City of Milton Design Review Board courtesy review, which was held on December the 3rd. They recommended that a 60-foot undisturbed buffer area be provided along Freemanville Road that were sparsely vegetated to replant in a natural fashion per the approval of the city arborist, and that the applicant would submit a landscape plan to the arborist for the preservation of the rural view shed. Also, architectural elevations for lots 3, 4, and 5, which are those that are fronting Freemanville Road, shall be reviewed and approved by staff prior to the issuance of a building permit, and that the Milton Trail should be incorporated into the development. City arborist, as mentioned, the site is under construction and a development permit was issued. The tree bond for $55,000 has been submitted. The city arborist requires that 110 4-inch trees are required or a combination of sizes and species as approved by the city arborist. The berm should be reduced in height if not removed completely, and screening should be done with natural vegetation with at least 60% coverage in trees and shrubs with no more than 40% coverage in grass or ground cover. The applicant has submitted a landscape plan approved by the city arborist to reflect the recommended conditions. In terms of standards of review, first is whether or not the proposal will permit or use that is suitable in view of the use and development of adjacent and nearby property. The proposed 9-lot single-family residential subdivision developed at a density of 0.053 units per acre is consistent with adjacent and nearby properties zoned CUP. to the north and west, and AG1 to the south and east, which are also developed at less than 1 unit per acre. It is staff's opinion that the proposed use is suitable with adjacent and nearby developments and zonings if approved with staff's recommended conditions. In terms of whether or not the proposal will adversely affect the existing use or usability of adjacent or nearby property, it is staff's opinion that the proposal will not adversely affect existing use or usability of the adjacent properties as described above. The proposed development is consistent with the remainder of Triple Crown to the west, Zone CUP pursuant to RZ 03-159, approved at a density of 0.60 units per acre, and other single-family subdivisions and lots to the north, east, and south. In terms of whether there are existing or changed conditions affecting the use and development of the property which give supporting grounds for either approval or disapproval of the proposal, the site contains slopes and a stream with the required buffer. In addition, the remainder of Triple Crown is also zoned CUP to the west. The request for the proposed CUP allows for additional flexibility to better site the homes within the subdivision based on the Fulton County Health Department requirement of 2 drain fields, protection of specimen trees, and a better landscape design for the subdivision. These facts are grounds to recommend approval of the proposed CUP if developed with the recommended conditions. Conclusion, if developed as a CUP with the recommended conditions, the 9-lot single-family subdivision would be consistent with the 2030 City of Milton Comprehensive Plan and will provide for a better development with the proposed CUP development standards. Therefore, staff recommends approval conditional of RZ 13-17 to rezone from AG1 to CUP. Recommended conditions. If this petition is approved by the Mayor and City Council, the rezoning of property located on Freemanville Road with a frontage of 523 feet should be approved for CUP conditional, subject to the owner's agreement to the following enumerated conditions. Where these conditions conflict with the stipulations and offerings contained in the letter of intent, these conditions shall supersede unless specifically stipulated by the Mayor and City Council. 1, to the owner's agreement to restrict the use of the subject property as follows. A, single-family detached dwellings and accessory uses and structures. B, no more than 9 total dwelling units at a maximum density of 0.53 units per acre, whichever is less, based on the total acreage zoned. Approved lot unit totals are not guaranteed. Developer is responsible through site engineering to demonstrate that all lots units within the approved development meet or exceed all the development standards of the City of Milton. To the owner's agreement to abide by the following. A, to the site plan received by the Community Development Department on October 3rd. Said site plan is conceptual only and must meet or exceed the requirements of the zoning ordinance or other applicable city ordinances and these conditions prior to the approval of a land disturbance permit. B, all areas which are not part of an individual lot and held in common shall be maintained by a mandatory homeowners association whose proposed documents of incorporation shall be submitted to the Director of Community Development for review and approval prior to the recording of the first final plat. To the owner's agreement to the following site development considerations. Minimum lot size, 43,560 square feet, 1 acre. B, minimum lot width at the building line, 90 feet. Minimum lot frontage, 30 feet. Minimum heated floor area per unit, 2,800 square feet. Minimum front yard setback, 30 feet. Minimum side yard setback, 10 feet. Minimum rear yard, 40 feet. Adjacent to an AG1 zone, a minimum of 50 feet. And lastly, no lot would have direct access to Freemanville Road. K, provide a 40-foot undisturbed buffer and an additional 20-foot no improvement setback for lots along Freemanville Road identified as lots 3, 4, and 5, and were sparsely vegetated, replanted in natural fashion, per the approval of the city arborist, and to submit a landscape plan to the arborist for the preservation of the rural viewshed. L, architectural elevations for lots 3, 4, 5, adjacent to Freemanville Road, shall be reviewed and approved by the Community Development Department with assistance of the city architect prior to the issuance of a building permit. And that is my presentation.
I have one question. Has there been any comparative information developed how these standards that are in this CUP compare to the existing standards in Triple
Triple
Crown?
Crown.
Robert can answer that.
Yeah, let me just get it. I have it right here. Right here. Okay. The lot width is 90 feet. Lot frontage is 35 feet. The
Wait a minute,
front-
Robert, would you back up? What are you talking about now? Is
This, Miss,
existing
Commissioner Her has asked what the existing Triple Crown RZ,
Okay.
I believe 2003 or 2004, 2003, what their existing development standards are, and this is what they are. Obviously, 1 acre, 2,500 square feet for minimum heated floor area. Lot width is 90 feet. Lot frontage is 35 feet. Front yard is 30. Side is 10. Side yard corner adjacent to a street is 20, and the rear yard is 50. And perimeter building setback is 50 as well, but, yeah.
What was that last one?
Perimeter building setback is 50, but usually what they would do is anything adjacent to AG1, they would make 50, which is typically most
Yeah.
of it.
Okay.
Yeah. I have a question for staff. Is what was originally J that is struck adjacent to Freemanville Road 50 feet struck because that was not acceptable to the applicant, or is that because you've amended
It's
the K, basically?
It's because of K, basically defaults to K, and J becomes irrelevant because it's now a 60-foot total setback for the building. In other words, the proposal would be 40-foot
Because-
undisturbed and then 20-foot no improvement, so there could be no buildings in it, so it's defaults to 60 feet.
Okay. And Robin, at one point in staff's, I think it was the arborist, Mark Law's recommendation, we go back to page 13, about the berm should be reduced in height if not removed completely. Is that a condition that's been relieved by staff in these conditions?
Correct, and based on, since the time of the writing of his comment in the report, that he has met with the applicant and they've gone thoroughly over the approved plan, because if you remember that this development is already under development, so they're kind of moving very quickly. And also the applicant has a copy of that approved plan by the arborist, which does not eliminate the berm, but kind of refashions it and adds landscaping.
So is the approved plan include landscaping on the berm?
Correct.
Because the berm right now is inconsistent with anything else along Freemanville that I can think of right now. We've got some architectural or landscaping barriers from some of the neighborhoods that have been developed, but not a berm like that I can think of.
Well, the applicant has a full detail of it, and he'll be happy to show it to
we
you
can ask
with,
him.
it really depicts what is happening out there, so.
Okay, I'll wait for the applicant's presentation then for that. Thank you. That's all my questions for staff.
I just had like a procedural one. What happens to the existing land disturbance permit?
It keeps on going.
So do they have to request another one under the conditions here, or?
They could do an amendment to it or a revision. It's just a minor revision, so. Yeah.
2B, the recommended conditions, this phase would go into part of the existing homeowners association?
Correct. It's
Okay.
just a continuation of it, yes.
Need to move the microphones closer, I think.
One last one then. Why the change from the 60 to the 40 and 20?
After further evaluation with the applicant, with the arborist, it was determined that the same effect could be made, as well as there is a need for a second, there'd be a same result would be made, i.e. that you wouldn't really see the backs of the houses, and also there's an issue with secondary drain fields, that there needed to be some flexibility to allow some disturbance for the backup drain field. So,
Well, there is if we develop at this density. If you don't develop at this density, their flexibility wouldn't necessarily be needed.
well, in this case, they're already developed at AG1 lots. There's 9 lots on the ground, and they're only proposing 9 lots. So in this case, it's just basically asking for variances to allow the position of the septic fields. And again, the applicant will probably can go into more detail about exactly which lots and why they needed them based on soils.
Okay.
And if I could just add to that, Commissioner Moore, under AG1, that they wouldn't have needed this creation of this rural view shed. I mean, because they're coming in for a rezoning, we're able to attach as a condition to zoning.
Right.
And the idea, which is something that we discussed at the DRB meeting, is to create, to the extent we can, an undisturbed natural buffer as you drive along.
Mm-hmm.
And so we're able to add that because it is a rezoning. And so you'll see with all these subsequent rezonings that are coming in that condition or that type of condition will be added, as well as the fact that we're going to do an architectural review of the elevation of those homes that face the main roads, again, so we can try to improve the aesthetics as one is driving along.
Yeah, I think that's terrific, and that's consistent with what the vision was for this, character area. You know, the preservation of our rural vistas is a critical part of it, and I think, I know Freemanville is identified as one of those roads where we were, in particular, identifying, a scaled-up requirement to ensure that we preserve the rural viewshed.
I'm having trouble hearing you from here, so I just want to let you know that.
Maybe our microphones aren't
Yeah.
loud enough either, and we've got them all at the usual placement, but.
If you're tapping on it, I can hear it. It's on. You guys
Yeah, you
you have to really talk
Yeah.
into it.
Maybe move it closer, yeah.
Is this close
One
enough?
of the things that we have to measure when we're assessing a CUP versus AG1 zoning is CUP provides more flexibility to the development to bypass some of the things that we have known to be built-in safeguards, where setbacks are a little bit different, perkability is different, the lot yield could be different. When you move to CUP, some of those restrictions go away. So the fact that this is precedent setting, and the fact that it would be the first CUP we're being asked to consider since becoming a city, I want to make sure that we don't
I'm not
lose
sure
some-
that's, Robin, go ahead.
You all actually already approved one on Batesville. It was an existing, again, very similar situation. It was actually all the way developed under AG1, and once they did the perk test and there was new owners, they requested a CUP with very similar setbacks.
Okay, so the second one, but nonetheless, important that we assess the fact that
Sure.
it's only our second one. That we have to make sure that we're being careful about what the yields are here compared to what we've known for as long as Milton's been in existence and long before that, with those safeguards that we had from AG1 use, that was what we stood tall on when we were in front of Fulton County. But obviously, we'll take that into consideration when the applicant makes their case. Thank you.
Any other questions?
I suggest we hear from the applicant.
Okay. Yeah.
Thank you, Kathy.
You're welcome.
Oh, I guess it's time for the applicant to
Yes.
make. Before we start that, John Scalisa, you put down RZ 1317, but you may have meant 18?
No,
17 as well? Okay. That's fine. Yeah, that's fine. I just want to make sure. Okay, the applicant can come up. No, I'm sorry. The applicant goes first to present.
Good evening. My name is Richard Warnick. I reside at 3366 Carverton Lane in Alpharetta, Georgia. I was the original developer of Triple Crown. It's a subdivision that was completed about 5 years ago, and this phase was to be the final phase. It didn't quite make the downturn, and so the property was lost to an investor, and that investor, we were subsequently able to get it purchased back from that investor by Mr. Fuqua, who was actually the builder of probably 40% of the houses in Triple Crown. So I was very pleased, and so he asked me to work with him as the former developer of Triple Crown to be consistent with what we had done, and to work with the HOA at Triple Crown, and which we have been doing all along. We've worked with the HOA, and we are in agreement with all the conditions as presented here tonight. So there's no dispute or anything like that of any of the conditions. I think the thing that's gotten the most attention tonight is the CUP versus the AG1. I was the developer of Harrington Falls. Also, it's now part of the city of Alpharetta, and then Triple Crown, and then Kingsley Estates that's also out in Milton. What we found was when we would go to develop a subdivision as AG1, the subdivision, the houses would have to sit 60 feet from the internal streets. AG1 was originally, we just had rural roads out here. And people, the 60-foot setback was from the rural roads to have a house sitting away from the road. When you develop a subdivision and you have internal streets, when you set the houses 60 feet from those internal streets, you move the houses closer to the external boundaries of the subdivision, or closer to the streets the rural streets that were set apart out here. So as a result, we found that by the only option for us to treat the subdivision, plus we wanted to do sidewalks on both sides of the street, which was actually new in our area for internal subdivisions in AG1 original zoning. So we went to the CUP because it permitted us flexibility to bring more of a subdivision look, even though we were developing with the same density as AG1. There's no increased density, generally speaking, that I've ever found. We've designed them both ways, and the AG1 density and the CUP density are exactly the same. So you get a much better internal subdivision feel, and if you've driven around Harrington Falls or Triple Crown, I think you notice that, and these are very nice homes, and they're very popular subdivisions. In the downturn that we had, these homes and these subdivisions pretty much maintained their value. There was some decline, but they pretty much attained their value. So it's, I think, proven to be a successful option. It's not to say it can't be improved, and certainly speaking to these 9 lots, it will be part of Triple Crown. It is going to be the same standards as Robin indicated, as in terms of how these houses will sit on the lots. And again, we'll have, in front of the houses, we'll have sidewalks on both sides of the street. It'll have the same exact feel as Triple Crown. And that's what the HOA wanted to make sure. And Tommy also be building the houses, and he's going to build the same style houses, so that it'll be no differentiation between what's there today and what will be there when the 9 lots are built on. In terms of how the view is from Freemanville Road, there's 523 feet of frontage. The berm that was built was approved as part of the development permit that was given. That was originally approved. But we actually have reduced the size of the berm. We've been in touch with Mark Law. Walt Recook's here tonight. He was the on-site guy that did all the development. And actually, of the 523 feet, the berm is only on 175 feet. So we pretty much over about 70% of the is totally natural. Where the berm is actually where there was very open area. There was no real trees there to speak of. So as a result, and Mark Law has approved the landscape plan, when this is done, it'll look incredibly natural. The tree selection, all the things that have gone into it are going to make it as that happens. So Walt had a drawing done and everything, but the homes will sit down. From Freemanville Road, you'll probably only be able to see the very tops of the houses. Walt's got actually a cross-section view of the homes. The only thing in the summertime, when the trees are all flowered out and are leafed out and bushy, you should not even be able to see the homes from Freemanville Road. And if you look on the other side of Freemanville, there is it's a natural berm, but it's very high area. So it'll look very consistent on both sides of the street as you drive down Freemanville Road. And that shows. These are the cross sections over here. You can see here's Freemanville Road. You got the very slight berm here. The trees that'll be there. So what you see over here is just this. All these houses sit below grade, substantially below grade. So you got like a 60-foot fall there. So it'll totally shield any view from Freemanville Road. They won't even know there are houses there, especially during the summertime. In the winter, there may be some view of the rooftop, but it would be very slight. I'll save the rest of the time for rebuttal.
Okay. Carolyn Lauterbach.
Hi, I'm Carolyn Lauterbach. Sorry, I don't know if you can hear me. At 649 Citation Trail in Triple Crown. I am the Secretary-Treasurer of our HOA and have been for the last 4 years, 3-4 years. We have been working with Richard and with Mr. Fuqua on this development. We've known it's been coming in. Excuse me. Starting to get a cold. I'm all congested. So we've been working with them throughout this whole process. We're well aware of what's going in there, and we do support it. And we are in the process of annexing them into our neighborhood. We want control over what those homes look like, so we want them to be part of our neighborhood. Excuse me. Our neighborhood is currently a CUP, but that was with Fulton County. That was before Milton came in. For consistency's sake, we think this parcel should be a CUP as well. And as long as they build to what they have met with us and talked to us about, we have no problem with this rezoning. Please note, however, that we believe this is a very unique situation, that we don't support any other CUPs in this area, and we don't want this to be viewed as a precedent-setting decision. Thank you.
Okay, that's all I have for the applicant and supporters. Now we have opposition, John Scalise.
Good evening. John Scalise, 100 Arcaro Trace. I'm actually the president of the HOA in Arcaro, which we'll hear about later. But the comments I wanted to make here are, like the first speaker, very relevant to, I think, all the cases in front of you. One of the things that I thought was important to share with the group is, if you look at the vision statement on the Milton website, it states, and this is a quote, "Milton is a distinctive community embracing small-town life and heritage while preserving and enhancing our rural character." Being in the business world, visions usually provide, plans come out of visions. There's a comprehensive land use plan that is in place for this entire area that basically accomplishes the vision that the city has laid out to do. At this point, nobody is against development. Nobody's against property rights. I think what everybody is here to talk about is smart development. There's a plan that basically delivers what I just read in the vision statement. The developers can develop on AG1. There is no need to change it. Everybody wins in that scenario. The developers can develop, the community stays rural. And I think that's why everybody in this room moved here. And I think everybody in this room wants that to be maintained. And I think that's basically the crux of the issue. And I think the big concern, and I think you're going to see bigger crowds because people don't know all the development that's coming. And as they hear it, they're opposed to it because it's not what the vision states. So if we can all have a happy medium here, if we just follow the plan. And I think that's what we're asking because the concern is the precedent that will be set if an AG1 gets changed to a CUP, because once that happens, everybody's going to want to come in and do it. And probably most developers are probably very honest and appreciative and want to work, but not all of them are. And it's just not worth the risk when the AG1 does not prevent development. So as a board, I would ask all of you to consider that as you're making decisions on this case and all cases that are coming before you in the very recent future, or not recent future, but coming very soon. Not tonight, but in general. So thank you for your consideration.
Please, no applause. Second warning.
Okay. I don't have any other cards in opposition, so.
You have no other cards?
Mm-mm.
Okay. I move we close public comment.
Was there a rebuttal?
Was there a rebuttal?
Pardon?
Does the applicant would like to
Oh.
rebuttal anytime?
Excuse me. I believe it's important to realize that the rural character of the Milton, which I'm all in favor of, be maintained, yes. Freemanville Road, Birmingham Highway, Birmingham Road, Providence, Bethany Bend, all these roads. But when you get off the road and develop a subdivision, if you can have the standards inside that subdivision to develop correctly, you don't disturb the rural view on these roads. It doesn't happen. So, but it makes a better subdivision. You actually have, think of a 60-foot setback versus 30-foot setback. You got twice the concrete going into the driveways. You just have it in a normal. Even the specimen trees are better saved by having the ability to do around. And it just also, I was the developer of Arcaro, where the gentleman lives, and it's own CUP, and it was developed CUP. And I'll stand behind any of the subdivisions we develop
30
out
seconds.
there. And I think they are popular subdivisions. They are well done, and the interior of the streets, I think, are better served with these particular things. And I want to see this Triple Crown finished with these 9 lots, the same as the existing Triple Crown subdivision. Thanks for your attention.
Now I move we close public comment.
Do we have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
There's no
No
rebuttal.
rebuttal. Only the applicant.
I'm sorry.
He wanted to rebuttal.
Oh, well, we can reopen. You can move to reopen.
Excuse me, we're having difficulty hearing you.
We're just discussing whether we wanted to reopen this for rebuttal or not.
Yeah. Why not? If it's just one person, there's time left.
And we don't have to close it. You can just say we close. You don't have to make another vote.
Right.
You could just say it's
We could
closed
ask-
afterwards.
Yeah, you could ask the applicant to come forward and just, or the, I'm sorry, the opposition. and-
So Mr. Scalise, you can come back up, sir.
Yeah, just one quick statement to that. The plans that both Triple Crown and Arcaro were developed CUP is true. But the thing to realize is that was before Milton was Milton. It was Fulton. The vision that I spoke about and the reason we became Milton is just to maintain those things. So it almost becomes, that was then, this is now. There's no reason to change the CUP zoning. It fits the plan that we want as a city, not what Fulton wanted, and it should maintain that way because that's what our vision is and we should stick to it.
Can we ask questions to the applicant now? Yes.
You starting with staff?
Or I have a question for the applicant. A couple questions.
Mr. Jamison, I think everybody just needs to speak really loud, okay?
Got it.
Just act like you're talking to your kids.
So
or
with the
something.
minimum, no, I guess the minimum square footage you're asking is 2,800.
Yes.
I mean, the minimum, what's the minimum in Triple Crown now?
The stated minimum required is 2,500.
Right. And what's the typical square footage? I know
Typical
it's much more
square
than
footage
that.
is probably 4,500 to
Okay.
5,000.
And I'm assuming these homes are going to be pretty much in line with what's
Exactly.
current. Okay.
Exactly.
I guess my next question is, let's just say it's currently zoned it's currently zoned AG1. Could you build 9 homes even though it's zoned AG1 now?
Yes, you can
Right.
build 9 homes, no question about it.
And you're doing the CUP because, I guess, for the internal character of the subdivision, is that correct?
Exactly, the internal character. And, if you put a 60-foot setback on these houses, those 3 lots, you're going to raise the elevation and move them closer to Freemanville Road and actually make a less rural-looking drive down Freemanville. It's, I'm just trying to make sense out of that.
Okay.
But so the 30-foot actually benefits the rural view from Freemanville Road. Now, internally, it looks like Triple Crown. And that's what we want. That's what the homeowners of Triple Crown want.
Well, it would move it deeper provided the setbacks from Freemanville could still be met. That lot may not yield that house. if
Oh,
you
it- yeah,
couldn't-
it-
you
it
couldn't
will.
meet Front and back.
The lots backing up to Freemanville are 220 feet deep, I think. So they're very, very deep lots. Thanks.
More questions? Do you have any more? I have a question for the applicant. Sorry, Mr. Wernick. Didn't mean to have you going back. The access road that's off of Freemanville right now, in our packet, it was prepared suggesting that that was only going to be used for emergency access by fire and police. Is that still the intent?
Yes, that's the limitation that was placed on us when we got the development permit.
And so how is that road actually going to be, how is that access going to be managed? There's a gate there today. Does that gate stay? Does that gate go away? How is that going to be managed for the community?
It'll be managed, there will be gate, yes, there will be a gate. It may only be on one end. And we have gates on both ends today because of so we don't get any subdivision traffic, coming in as we're developing. But there'd be one gate located somewhere off Freemanville Road that would have access from the fire and police, ability to access through that gate.
So
Probably look a little.
It would be locked, but,
Yeah, it'd be locked, but it would be available for fire and police, yeah.
okay, so there is no intent in any way, shape, or form for there to be access to the community as a cut-through from Freemanville to Birmingham Road?
It's not intended to be a public access. Yeah, Walt just mentioned that during construction, because of the not wanting to go through the entire Triple Crown subdivision, it may be used during construction purposes, yeah.
And what's the intended surface as the end result of the development? What does that look like?
It's asphalt.
It is paved.
It's paved. The entire easement is already paved asphalt, yeah.
And that would stay. I have some questions for staff. On the math that's done for the impact to the schools, where the yield of students per household, is that standard math that's provided for us? Where I think in this case it was suggested there was going to be between 6 and 10 students on these 9 homes. Is that Fulton County math?
Yes, it is. It's the Fulton County Board of Education planner provides me when I request for each of the rezonings to produce the estimation, and they have their own software that does that.
And that takes into consideration square footage, number of bedrooms? Because the reason I ask that is it looks pretty boilerplate.
It probably
regardless of the
is,
development.
yes.
And I think it understates what the impact on the schools will be, and I think it has significant bearing on, is it one measure that we need to make of these kinds of developments?
Well, I have a fairly consistent relationship with the planner, and I can ask him about it if there was a way to tweak the model based on, let's say, the number of bedrooms, et cetera, so.
Yeah, when you're looking at 2 of the 3 schools that are affected here, I think, if I remember correctly, without going back to the chart, 2 of the 3 schools are already at or above capacity.
Correct.
And to underrepresent the potential true number coming from this development and some of the others are being asked to consider, I think we're doing ourselves a disservice to just take boilerplate math from Fulton County.
As I said, I can ask, they also are striving to get better estimations because obviously that affects their manpower and being able to provide education to the community. So I will ask him of that.
Yeah, and long term, if there are other developments that we know are coming that are within standards that don't require hearings in front of the mayor and council or any of the other boards, and there are those that are coming that also represent significant numbers of households, to have them consistently underrepresent the actual numbers, we're setting ourselves up for the need for having to put aside more school property in our future, which I don't think we're prepared to do at this point in our land use plan. There's a couple of Fulton County schools that are platted, but I don't think anybody's looking forward to more schools in the area anytime soon.
Well, that is a struggle that they do have, and again, we've been sharing as much information as possible because you're right, much of the development doesn't go through the rezoning, and so we're working with the County Board of Education on that.
Great, thank you.
Robin, could we at some point then get someone from Fulton County to sit down with us and explain to us how they come up with these numbers?
I can ask.
And in addition to that one, the one where we look at the financial impact, I'd like to have someone sit down with us and explain to us how that program works.
Okay.
We keep seeing that, and us, to this date, have no idea how they're getting there.
Right. It's a very complex calculations that were done by a professor from University of Georgia.
The calculations are not complex. The input data
Well, that's
may
what I
be
meant. I'm sorry.
a number of variables with it, but I think we need to understand that too.
Okay.
I know that we talked about it. I don't know that I remember it being in the conditions that are being put forward for the applicant by staff. Is that we are requiring sidewalks in consideration of the trail plan. Those are all back in as requirements.
Yeah, those are all based on already set ordinances, and when there's already ordinances, we don't typically repeat the condition, but if If you'd like to have an additional condition, that's up to you all. It's being repetitive.
Yeah.
Were those approved as in the LDP that's existent now?
Yes, I mean, they've always had to deal with the Milton Trail and sidewalks, so.
Sorry to keep bouncing around. I've got another question for the applicant. Mr. Warnick, the representation of the berm on the drawings that we're looking at today, is that what is actually on the ground today out in
Yes.
Freemanville?
Yes,
It's to the standards that you're showing here?
correct.
Okay. It just, the visual, as I drive by, just looks bigger than that. And what is the grade from Freemanville to the top of the berm?
Well, I have to get the experts.
It depends where you're asking me to reference it. You know, near the emergency access road, it's about 6 to 8 feet tall. But as you go down Freemanville Road, it gets a little bit taller, but that's the natural grade. That is not a berm that we built. That is actually where we tie back into natural grade back there.
So what do you
And the
think it is
plan we
there,
had
Walt?
originally was much bigger and much higher,
Yeah.
and we cut it way back.
What do you think it is there, Walt?
It's 6 to 8 foot nears the emergency access road.
And what about the other end?
It's somewhere around 10 to 12, but again, it's all natural grade. It's not that, if anything, we moved it back to put the trail in. There's a trail at the toe of the slope near Freemanville Road, because that was what's required by the city. And that's where you can see, it's just, if you go on top of that berm, you walk it, you'll see exactly what I'm talking about. If you don't walk it, you don't understand it. You kind of think everything's a berm, but it's not. And if you look at those pictures that are on your screen, that shows the very top one is standing on top of the berm. That's the man-made portion looking towards the south, and that's where the natural grade is. And so that way you can see that it is, and it shows the profile pretty accurately, the width and length and of the slopes and such.
Okay. And I'm sorry, Walt, would you put your name in?
I'm so sorry. My name's Walt Recook. I live at 615 Scarlet Oak Trail, Milton, Georgia. And the plan that's submitted up here is the one that we've recently gotten approved by Mark Law. He has approved the landscape plan for this site.
That's the lower left corner that we're looking at?
That's correct, and it's the whole landscape plan on the whole site. He's approved. And we're going to go about actually getting it installed, hopefully the next 2 weeks, 2 to 3 weeks, we'll have it all done.
Robin, can you tell on that landscape plan, I know that the, oh, never mind. Answer my question. This, another question for staff. With the CUP setbacks on any of these lots, are we encroaching on what would have been a natural restriction in AG1 from steep slope or stream buffers or other setbacks? Are we encroaching in anywhere that would have been a natural or a different restriction based on AG1?
I can't really address specifically about steep slopes. Maybe Walt can address that as far as which lots are specifically considered steep slopes. Let's see, regarding, the streams, they should be meeting, So you're saying if it was AG1, if they would be eliminated from developing it?
Right.
Again,
That's my question. Are we giving any relief with the CUP that would have been a greater restriction in AG1 from stream buffers or from steep slope?
well, as I stated before, it was a land disturbance permit on an AG1 yielding 9 lots, so I'm assuming that they're still yielding the same number of lots, so it's not, allowing for more lots.
No, but that can be tricky math.
Right, I don't have the answer. I don't know the exact, you'd have to ask
Yeah.
the applicant.
I want to make sure, we don't have to bring this up, but I'll choose to. When an applicant stands before us and tells us that the CUP math is the same as AG1, that's a farce. It's not. It's very different math, because the restrictions are different. And the things that would have been natural restrictions for us under AG1, you're giving up. You're giving up things where a lot may not have yielded based on percolability and where the fields, the septic fields can go. You're changing setbacks from side restrictions and back and front restrictions, and the yield may not have been the same. AG1 typically has been our friend as Milton to produce lower yields and preserved our rural view sheds that we've been so diligent trying to do as a city, and so carefully built into our comprehensive land use plan, our overlays, our master plans, et cetera. And I just can't accept that the math is the same. It's not.
All I can say, it was permitted with 9 lots.
Yeah, no, I get that part.
And
but
you're
just
correct, I
overall,
cannot,
if we're
yeah,
considering some
right.
of the others, I want to make sure that we don't
Yeah, and I
take
can't
that as,
answer that for the other ones, but I can say that because it was permitted for 9 lots, unless they permitted an unbuildable lot, which we strive not to allow that to
Right.
happen, I believe that this would still yield 9 lots
yeah,
even under AG1.
and it may very well in this case, but I just didn't want to let that rest as something that we didn't go back and talk about, because to leave that as a statement as fact, it's not. So, thank you. Okay, I don't have any further questions.
I have a question for staff. On RZ 13-20, you said something about they're going to come back with an AG1 plan and a couple possible houses that would be.
Right, I mean, it would still be a CUP, but what I'm, kind of the reverse of that, they would still propose CUP because they're exceeding the number of lots that they could ask for a variance to. So the majority of the lots, let's say 40 out of 52, will only need the exception. So there could be the lesser setbacks, and the remainder of those 40 lots would have AG1 setbacks, but it still would be a CUP because they can't get a variance to the Board of Zoning Appeals because it exceeds the number of lots allowed to have a variance on.
I was just trying, is there a way to develop this as an AG1 with a couple variances? I mean, is this standalone, or is this all part of the total subdivision when you count lots?
No, I mean, this is it's a part of the Triple Crown because it's all connected,
So
but
is
it's
it 9
considered
or
under
total
9
amount?
for
So it's
this.
just 9?
This is just 9.
Just 9.
Okay.
Yeah. The rest of Triple Crown has already been developed
Okay.
under that other CUP that was approved in Fulton County.
Any other questions? I don't.
Motion?
Yeah, I'd like to make a motion that we deny RZ 13-17 as a CUP application to the city and ask that the applicant go back and reconsider AG1 conditions to be brought forward.
I would like to just comment on that because I mean, it's an existing neighborhood that we're just adding 9 homes to. And the HOA treasurer spoke. I mean, aesthetically, I'd prefer for it to be consistent with the current neighborhood as a CUP with the same setbacks. I think it would look a little awkward, I guess you could say, if you're have different setbacks within the same neighborhood. I don't know, that's just my thoughts.
If you drive this neighborhood, these 9 lots are entirely separate from the other. And there's a connecting road, but it's a completely standalone cul-de-sac. Basically, it's a long cul-de-sac that gets you there. AG1 standards are not a bad thing.
I definitely agree with you on that. I was just saying on this particular instance, when there's already a neighborhood in existence,
But I would add that the developer also bought this land, having rebought this land, having lost it, got it back, knowing it was AG1 land he was buying. They would have to apply to the city for CUP.
Right.
On the risk that he might not get it. So it's not necessarily our responsibility to grant that.
I
if
totally
we're trying
agree.
to hold to our other standards.
I'm thinking if I'm a neighbor and how my subdivision aesthetically looked, 9 homes, AG1, and I don't know how many other homes are in there, 20, 30, 40 homes. I don't know. Yeah, I was just thinking, if I lived in the neighborhood, I would prefer for it to be a CUP. But that's my thoughts.
We have a motion.
Yeah. Just need a second or no second, and if there's no second, it fails.
Do you have a motion on the floor?
Yeah. Do we have a second?
Then we have to
Motion fails.
Okay.
Okay, I'll make a motion to approve RZ 13-17 with staff's recommended conditions, and the sidewalks, you say, is already an ordinance, so we're just repeating a fact, right?
Correct.
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passed.
Okay, the next request is RZ 1318-14738 Birmingham Highway by Piedmont Atlantic Capital to rezone from AG1 to CUP to develop 17 single-family residences. Ms. Kathleen Field will present the... Yeah, I need to change that.
Pardon?
Oh, thank you. You're a gentleman, thanks. Yep. Okay. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the Planning Commission. RZ 13-18. You see the parcel outlined in red before you. Current zoning is AG1. The 2030 future land use map shows this area. It calls for it to be agriculture, equestrian, and estate residential. The revised site plan was submitted on December 17th, and this plan includes recreation and open space area. Subject site and background. The subject site contains 23 acres and currently is developed with 2 single-family residences and accessory structure zoned AG1. The site is located within the agricultural, equestrian, estate residential designation of the 2030 City of Milton Comprehensive Plan. The applicant is requesting a rezoning to CUP to build 17 single-family residences on an overall density of 0.74 units per acre. Based on the applicant's revised site plan submitted to the Community Development Department on December 17th, staff offers the following considerations. Site plan analysis. The following are proposed building setbacks and development standards for individual lots. And as we've discussed, CUP allows the applicant to specify building setbacks. And he is proposing the following. Front yard setback 20 feet, side yard setback 10 feet, side yard setback adjacent to a street 20 feet, rear yard 30 feet, adjacent to the AG1 zone 50 feet setback, and this is something that the staff recommended. Minimum heated floor area for the structure is 2,500 square feet. In terms of landscape strips and buffers, staff has included conditions to ensure the preservation of the rural view shed. Based on discussions on the current condition of the site, staff has concluded the below requirements will ensure the preservation of the rural view shed and have been included in the recommended conditions. First, to provide a 40-foot undisturbed buffer from the property line or the Milton Trail easement, and an additional 20-foot no improvement setback for lots along Birmingham Highway identified as lots 8, 9, and 10, and were sparsely vegetated, replanted in a natural fashion, per the approval of the city arborist. Submit a landscape plan to the city arborist for the preservation of the rural viewshed. Next, architectural elevations for lots 8, 9, and 10 adjacent to Birmingham Highway shall be reviewed and approved by the Community Development Department with assistance of the city architect prior to the issuance of a building permit. Other site plan considerations. Pursuant to Section 64-2392, the zoning ordinance requires sidewalks which shall be constructed in accordance with the Department of Public Works standard plan, which requires sidewalk on both sides of the street. Within the City Code, Chapter 50 subdivisions, it is required that sidewalks within residential subdivisions be a minimum of 5 feet in width with a minimum 2-foot beauty strip between the sidewalk and the curb. The proposed site plan does not indicate sidewalks within the development or along Birmingham Highway. The applicant has verbally stated that this requirement will be met. Pursuant to Section 64-897, the CUP development standards require the following as it relates to recreation and open space. Common outdoor area consisting of not less than 550 square feet per unit shall be provided for recreation in all developments of 20 or more acres. Land proposed for open space or recreation shall be allocated among the use areas in proportion to the ratio of a neighborhood population to the total CUP population, so that acreage devoted to open space is reasonably accessible to all residents. On the revised site plan received on December 17th, the applicant has provided an open space recreation area adjacent to the lot labeled CA-1. It provides for 9,474 square feet, which meets the required 550 square foot per lot, total of 9,350 square feet. It is located adjacent to the ganged mailbox kiosk, which is now required by the United States Postal Service for all new subdivisions. The environmental site analysis. The proposed site does not contain historical sites or sensitive plant and animal species. The site does contain streams which have been delineated with the appropriate buffers and setbacks. The site contains floodplain adjacent to a tributary to Sandy Copper Creek along the western portion of the site, but is outside the limits of construction. The site also contains slopes exceeding 25% up to 50%, primarily in or near the stream buffers along the western portion of the site. These aggressive slopes are the reason for the requested rezoning to reduce environmental impact due to the steep slopes. In addition, the site contains wetlands within the stream buffers. City Arborist report. The site is heavily wooded and the only clear area is located on lots 10 and 11. Several specimen trees were located and appears all can be preserved with the exception of the 6 specimen pine trees located near the existing houses on lots 10 and 11. The arborist met with the applicant to determine the optimum planting and design to preserve the rural viewshed along Birmingham Highway. These requirements are included in the recommended conditions, which will be a 40-foot buffer and a 20-foot non-improvement setback. Public Works. 1. Bicycle and pedestrian facilities on State Route 372 Birmingham Highway not shown in accordance with City Code of Ordinances. 2. Entrance location on State Route 372 at Acaro Drive. Striping and turn lanes subject to GDOT approval. 3. Acaro HOA has requested that the city abandon Acaro Lane. The projections from the Fulton County Board of Education show that the total students estimated to be generated by this development would be anywhere from 11 to 19. The fiscal impact shows that the analysis of the cost versus the revenue generated on the site for the houses over 20 years would net a positive $129,584, I think. Public involvement, CZIM meeting. On December 4th, the applicant was present at the Community Zoning Information meeting held at Milton City Hall. There were 20 residents from the community in attendance who signed the sign-in sheets. Public participation report. The applicant held their public participation meeting on Monday, December the 2nd. The applicant provided the required public participation report on December 12th by email. There were 22 people in attendance at the meeting. A copy of the issues and concerns is attached at the end of the staff report. Design Review Board courtesy review meeting held on December 3rd. They recommended that a 60-foot undisturbed buffer area along Birmingham Highway be provided that were sparsely vegetated to replant in a natural fashion per the approval of the city arborist, and to submit a landscape plan to the arborist for the preservation of the rural viewshed. The architectural elevations for lots 8, 9, and 10, which are those fronting Birmingham Highway, shall be reviewed and approved by staff prior to the issuance of a building permit. The setbacks should match what they are on the adjacent CUP development, and the developer should work with the HOA to ensure that the design is consistent with the existing development. Standards of review. Whether or not the proposal will permit a use that is suitable in view of the use and development of adjacent and nearby property. With the proposed 17-lot single-family residential subdivision developed at a density of 0.74 units per acre is consistent with the adjacent subdivision, Acaro at Triple Crown subdivision to the south, zone CUP, at a density of 0.83 units per acre. In addition, there are other platted subdivisions to the west, east, and south, zoned AG1 with minimum 1 acre lots. Also, there are scattered single-family residences to the north, zoned AG1. It is staff's opinion that the proposed use is suitable with adjacent and nearby developments and zonings if approved, with staff's recommended conditions, and the required open space and recreation is included in the development. Whether there are other existing or changed conditions affecting the use and development of the property which give supporting grounds for either approval or disapproval of the proposal. The majority of the west side of the parcel has substantial slopes and streams. In addition, there are 2 spring heads and a well which require that all septic drain lines be a minimum of 100 feet from both the spring heads and well. This situation further hinders the location of homes on the lots. The request for the proposed CUP allows for additional flexibility to better site the homes within the subdivision. These facts are grounds to recommend approval of the proposed CUP if developed with the recommended conditions. In addition, the engineer for the applicant has stated that no greater number of lots is created with the CUP district than with the AG1 district. Conclusion, if developed as a CUP with the recommended conditions, the 17-lot single-family subdivision would be consistent with the 2030 City of Milton Comprehensive Plan and will provide for a better development with the proposed CUP development standards. Therefore, staff recommends approval conditional of RZ 13-18 to rezone from AG1 to CUP. And the recommended conditions are: if this petition is approved by the Mayor and City Council, the rezoning of the property located at 14738 Birmingham Highway should be approved for CUP, subject to the owner's agreement to the following enumerated conditions. Where these conditions conflict with the stipulations and offerings contained in the letter of intent, these conditions shall supersede unless specifically stipulated by the Mayor and Council. 1. To the owner's agreement to restrict the use of the subject property as follows. A. Single-family detached dwellings and accessory uses and structures. B. No more than 17 total dwelling units at a maximum density of 0.74 units per acre, whichever is less based on the total acreage zoned. Approved lot units totals are not guaranteed. The developer is responsible through site engineering to demonstrate that all lots units within the approved development meet or exceed all the development standards of the City of Milton. 2, to the owner's agreement to abide by the following. To the revised site plan received by the Community Development Department on December 11th, said site plan is conceptual only and must meet or exceed the requirements of the zoning ordinance, all other applicable city ordinances, and these conditions prior to the approval of a land disturbance permit. B, all areas which are not part of an individual lot and held in common shall be maintained by a mandatory homeowners association, whose proposed documents of incorporation shall be submitted to the Community Development Department for review and approval prior to the recording of the first final plat. 3, to the owner's agreement to the following site development considerations. A, minimum lot size, 43,560 square feet, 1 acre. B, minimum lot width at building line, 75 feet. Minimum lot frontage, 35 feet. Minimum heated floor area per unit, 2,500 square feet. Minimum front yard setback, 20 feet. Minimum side yard setback, 10 feet. Minimum rear yard, 30 feet. Adjacent to AG1 agricultural, there should be a 50-foot setback. Minimum perimeter setback for the development, 30 feet. And also, no lot would have direct access to Birmingham Highway. L, provide a 40-foot undisturbed buffer from the property line or the Milton Trail easement, an additional 20-foot no improvement setback for lots along Birmingham Highway identified as lots 8, 9, and 10, and were sparsely vegetated, replanted in a natural fashion per the approval of the city arborist. Submit landscape plan to the city arborist for the preservation of the rural view shed. M, architectural elevations for lots 8, 9, and 10 adjacent to Birmingham Highway shall be reviewed and approved by the Community Development Department with assistance of the city architect prior to the issuance of a building permit. To the owner's agreement to abide by the following requirements, dedications, and improvements. Dedicate at no cost to the City of Milton or Georgia Department of Transportation prior to the approval of a land disturbance permit sufficient land as necessary to provide the following. 1, provide at least 35 feet of right-of-way from the center line of State Route 372 along the entire property frontage or as may be required by GDOT. 2, provide bicycle and pedestrian improvements along the entire property frontage of State Route 372 according to cross-sections in Chapter 48 street sidewalks and other public places of the City of Milton Code. B, access to the site and installation modification of transportation infrastructure shall be subject to the approval of GDOT and the City of Milton Department of Public Works. And that is it. Thank you very much.
I have a question for staff. You said the Arcaro Lane, the HOA wanted to abandon that. Can you explain on that?
Robin, please.
Basically, when the original Acaro was developed, part of Fulton County's requirements was for interparcel access. And when the plat was created and recorded, instead of having a street developed or built, there was, it's called a reservation with a dedication. And so as far as we can tell, and actually right now we're having a title search done because there's been a request for abandonment, that it is a public right-of-way, but it's not built. And so therefore the intent from Fulton County was to provide for interparcel access if and when that parcel to the north would be developed.
So we don't know who owns that.
Well, we're like 99% sure that it's the city that owns it because it was put onto the plat.
Okay.
So.
Question similar to the last case. How do these site development standards compare to those in the existing Arcaro?
Heated floor area is 2,500 square feet. Front yard is 30. Side yard is 10. Side corner setback adjacent to a street is 20. Rear yard setback is 50. Minimum building line width is 90. And let's see if there's anything else.
What's the minimum front again?
The minimum front is 30.
Okay.
And so that is it.
I don't have anything for staff.
Neither do I. Any other?
Applicant.
I'd like to hear from the applicant then.
Okay. The applicant.
Good evening. I don't know if you need to reset the clock.
Yes, thank you so much.
Good evening. My name's Ethan Underwood. I'm with the Lipscomb Johnson firm. Our office is at 112 North Main Street in Cumming, Georgia. I'm representing Piedmont Atlantic Capital. With me tonight I have Craig Harper, who's the principal, Walt Recook, who's with Hillside Development, our consultant, and Barry Etheridge, who's our engineer. We're happy to answer any questions that you have. We do have a presentation I wanted to go through. I'll go ahead and jump in while we're pulling that up. As stated, this is a 23-acre addition. We're looking to add on and develop Phase 2 of Acaro at Triple Crown. It's currently zoned AG1, and we're requesting a CUP zoning for 17 single-family detached lots. Our sewage disposal systems will be septic, so that will be in keeping, again, with the rural character that folks are trying to preserve, and we appreciate that very much. As you can see, Acaro is on the left side, just to the on the left side of Birmingham Highway, and the tract that we're looking to zone has been highlighted in blue. This is their site plan depicting the 17 lots. This property, as stated, is being annexed pursuant to the covenants. The covenants reserved until 2015 the ability to annex property. So everyone who bought in there bought under restrictions and the provision that this was a possibility. And what we're looking to do is to continue the high expectations and the nice subdivision and amenity development that is already in Acaro Phase 1. The access road, as discussed, is through Acaro Lane, which I think is important. This is a Fulton County tax map. You can actually see just south of the red outlined map. There is a road. So Fulton County recognizes this as public property. It's owned by the city of Milton. No one's paying taxes on it. It's exempt to taxes, and it has been accepted. The development standards were stated to you. We do want to discuss, there was a question when this was originally applied for. The site plan has gone through several iterations. We are happy to agree to the same development standards that were approved for Acaro Phase 1 so that we have, again, that continuity of the subdivision. And the benefits. This does provide some benefits to the current residents and to the city of Milton. First, again, it's continuing the high-quality homes. These are going to be in keeping with the character and the design standards in Acaro. It also allows the property to be developed at a lower density. As stated, Acaro Phase 1 is coming in at 0.83 units to the acre, and we're proposing a 0.075 density on the tract. This is going to provide also, by expanding the property and the subdivision, it increases the length in the subdivision so that buses will actually be able to pick up school children interior to the subdivision rather than just having to have a common pickup at Birmingham Highway, because it actually puts them more than half a mile from the pickup point. This allows buses to go from into the subdivision. And finally, the annexation provides less drive cuts. So you have less folks that are less points of access that can cause accidents on Birmingham Highway. With that, we certainly want to address the concern about, well, I guess I'll get to the road in one second. We do request one change to the staff conditions. Staff had asked for a 40-foot undisturbed buffer and a 20-foot improvement setback. Now, under the AG1 zoning, as is currently zoned, you can clear all the way to the right-of-way. No buffers required, no view shed preserved. But what we're asking for, in order to just be able to grade an additional 10 feet, we're asking for that 10 feet. We'll preserve a 30-foot buffer, but we need that instead of 20-foot improvement setback, we need to be a 30-foot setback. Now, I think the issue that's come up in particular is, well, who owns the road, and is it being applied for to be abandoned? Our understanding is that application was made, quite frankly, in opposition to the zoning application. But we think that violates the covenants. The covenants specifically state, in which everyone, we understand that people don't like change. It happens. But when people bought in this subdivision, they bought with the restriction on their property that there could be land annexed into it. So the attempt to abandon the road and thwart the subdivision really violates the covenants in and of itself. The declarant has that right, and we're utilizing that in concert with him. With that, we certainly hope that you will consider this. We think that it meets the intent of the character of the area. Minimum 1 acre lots, preservation of woods. This site will not be mass graded. It will be graded for the rights of way and utility installation, and then at the individual home sites as they're built. That's when the grading will commence on those lots. With that, we do have to state that we reserve all our constitutional rights, and we're happy to answer any questions and reserve the remainder of our time. Thank you.
Okay, we have some people in opposition. The first person is Mark Stanley.
Thank you.
Okay, sorry. Okay.
Okay.
Go ahead.
My name is Mark Stanley. I live at 490 Arcaro Drive. I'm a resident of Arcaro community. I'm on the board in the HOA. I'm the treasurer of the HOA. And I have some statements I want to make. I'm clearly in opposition to the request that the developer, Piedmont Atlantic Capital, is making today. And I'm also speaking on behalf of the residents of Arcaro community. I have all of their names and addresses right here, which I will submit for city record. I would like to start off by saying that your decision to grant approval to Piedmont Atlantic Capital, LLC, in regards to the request to join the adjacent property to Arcaro community at Triple Crown violates our constitutional rights. I refer to you to the written materials I have also provided for more detailed statement on the infringement of our constitutional rights. Here and incorporate my written challenges by reference. And I'd like to make, in addition, the following statements. There is a reservation, not a dedication, on this road. The road does not exist today. Use of the road reservation is not necessary since there is access to Birmingham Highway. The adjacent land that the developer wants to purchase is not landlocked, and there is no mandatory use to open the road. There is no reason to connect the two communities together, and our community does not want the two communities to be joined. The construction of this road would severely and directly impact 2 to 3 homes and would significantly reduce their values. The mouth of the proposed road is 75 feet, and it actually cuts into the front of the yard of one of our residents. We understand that the adjacent property is zoned AG1, and we know that Arcaro is zoned as CUP. For the adjacent property, we oppose a change from AG1 to CUP zoning without further justification. The city has it zoned as AG1, and we believe it should remain that way. We believe the developer wants to try to open the road reservation to connect the two communities so that he can absorb Arcaro's CUP zoning into the adjacent property, and that he wants to develop. With CUP zoning, he will be able to build more homes. Our subdivision tried to abandon the road reservation in 2007 when the city had just formed and was trying to establish itself. However, we question the legal right of the city or developer to open up this road, and our community has hired legal counsel that specializes in this area of law to investigate this. We have not seen a dedication of the road. The developer entered into an agreement to abandon the reserved road to the adjoining property owners, and the HOA has agreed to abandon it to the adjoining property owners as well. At least one of these requests to the city is pending. We have not been provided with any documentation or proof that the city, the owner, or the applicant developer has any legal right to use the allegedly reserved road. Similarly, the planning staff recommendation requires changes to the Arcaro subdivision entrance, even though neither the applicant, developer, nor the owner has any right of ownership or control over those areas. Until this documentation is provided, at a minimum, this matter should be deferred. To the extent that the applicant developer seeks to annex the proposal enclave at Arcaro into the Arcaro subdivision, such right was only reserved to LSI Triple Crown, and we have not been provided with any documentation or proof that either the owner or the applicant developer holds that legal right. Until this documentation is provided, at a minimum, this matter should be deferred. We have grave concerns that the attempt to use the allegedly reserved road or the areas at the Arcaro entrance to benefit the enclave at Arcaro constitutes both an illegal and unconstitutional taking of private property and or an illegal gratuity in violation of the Constitution. The developer should reconfigure his plans to build a separate community with AG1 zoning and with road access to Birmingham Highway. And I do have paperwork to submit. I have this. I have all of this. Thank you. Thanks.
Okay, the next
Please, no more clapping. Please.
the next,
We'll clear the room if we have to start over. But no more outbreaks, please.
the next speaker is John Galbraith.
As introduced, I'm John Galbraith. I'm a resident of 445 Arcaro Drive in Milton. We moved to Milton for a specific purpose when we moved here from Washington, D.C. A lot of that specific purpose was the look and the feel of Milton that's been stated earlier by many, many people. The popularity of Milton School. A lot of people have said a lot of things. I want to at least give my perspective on some of those things that have been said as far as promises that were made by other developers, mathematics that don't make sense when you look at it. First is the mathematics. Our proposed developer, as did the developer of Arcaro, stated that the size of our homes would be a minimum square footage of 2,500. In effect, if you measure the homes in Arcaro, I think you will find they're probably more in the range of 4,500 to 5,000. If we call apples apples and oranges oranges, I think we'll have much better and much closer to accurate descriptions from the Fulton County School Board when we're trying to determine how many kids these additional 17 homes will provide. If you look at the difference between a 2,500 square foot home and a 4,500 square foot home or a 5,000 square foot home, you do the math, and I know you can do it. That is a concern that I have, and I don't understand why there is so much debate between what is the difference between AG1 and CUP. We've been told there's no difference, but yet if you read the rules and the regulations for them, there's a world of difference. If you look at the land that's in question, if you walk the land that's in question, you will see that there's stream beds back there. You'll see that there's all kinds of wildlife that will be disturbed if it's moved forward. When we came to the last meeting with the developer, he showed us land plots and plans that included the drain fields that would be required for these homes that are back there. It becomes abundantly clear to me that if we allow CUP, they will be able to move those homes within the lots to allow the drain fields so that they can squeeze additional homes in there. Under the present AG1 ruling, there's no way that that would be able to be done, in my humble opinion. But yet we're told that that is the case and that there's plenty of room available for it. So those types of things are the types of things that as a homeowner bother me when I get conflicting stories that you really can't tell one way or the other. So that's my concern. And the gentleman said that people don't like change. You're right. Sometimes people don't like change. I'm not opposed to change. I'm very much in favor of change with a plan, and change that doesn't keep changing after the rules were set. We had the comprehensive land use plan, and now we're proposing that we can just throw that out and say that it doesn't exist because this subdivision is next to one that was made a CUP several years ago. And
2 minutes remaining.
I think that that's somewhat faulty logic myself. Thank you very much for your time, and I appreciate your service.
Okay, the next speaker is Jeff Perkins. You have a little less than 2 minutes.
Good evening, Jeff Perkins. I live at 14830 Birmingham Highway. A little different than what's mentioned. I am not in Acaro. I live adjacent to lots 4, 5, 6, and 7 on the proposed development. I also oppose the rezoning. I oppose it because when my wife and I purchased the property that we own, we wanted a greater degree of privacy. We also purchased specifically in Milton for the express purpose of having, and specifically because of the fact that the city has done a great job historically of maintaining, as has been discussed, that more rural feel, and also maintaining and minimizing the rezonings and managing the number of development and sites that have gone in. If the site is approved to be rezoned, my main request is to have a 50-foot undisturbed buffer that would be adjacent to our property on the backside of lots 4, 5, 6, and 7. Thank you.
There's no more speakers in opposition.
I guess.
Have rebuttal.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Thank you. I think we're presented with the same problem, and they're saying, well, why are you asking for the CUP zoning as opposed to the AG1? AG1, again, it could be developed with AG1 with the same density. The difficulty is AG1 has locked-in front yard setbacks that would make the home placement out of character with the Acaro Phase 1. And you can't ask for enough variances for this number of lots in order to make them uniform. Again, the lot size would satisfy all of the AG1, all the setback requirements. We could satisfy the AG1 setbacks. However, you end up with a product that looks out of character with the neighborhood that we're trying to be annexed into. With regard to Mr. Perkins' request for a 50-foot buffer, we don't think that that's feasible. It's our understanding that he recently cleared his property in order to install flag lots. So now there's an access drive running right down his property line. So to come and ask our client to preserve a 50-foot buffer for his benefit after he's cleared his land is not a fair request. And finally, with regard to the road, it's a public road. Anyone has rights. Everyone pays taxes to them in Fulton County, and anyone has rights to utilize a public road. It's not something that is required that our client show any type of special proof to be able to use it, and we're certainly complying with staff's request that we minimize drive cuts onto Birmingham Highway and that we access and use the existing right-of-way. We would respectfully request your approval or your recommendation of approval for the CUP zoning. And again, we are happy to consent to the conditions and the performance standards in Acaro Phase 1. Thank you.
Close public hearing.
Still have time? Is there time for us to have?
Yeah, you have 54 seconds left if you would want to further.
I would like to.
Can you state your name again?
Again, my name is John Galbraith, 445 Arcaro Drive. I again would like to stress the impact on the roads that we have in Arcaro, in the existing Arcaro subdivision. We're constrained with a roundabout that prevents school bus from coming in. I know we've been told, we've been promised that if this new development goes in, that possibly school buses could come into our community, which maybe is a good thing. I don't know. Seems like a good thing. But we've also been told by Fulton County that they can't come in there because of the roundabout that we have that was a requirement on the road on Arcaro Drive when it comes in. So I'm not sure how developing this and almost doubling the size of our subdivision is going to allow the school buses to come in. And what the plan is for the roundabout, but that's definitely a concern. When we built there, indications were that there could be possibly 4 to 5 lots built in the subject property, not 17 lots, and that's what we were told. Thank you.
May I have 30 seconds to respond to the comment made specifically
Sure.
Sure.
Thank you. Again, Jeff Perkins, and specifically regarding the comment about my clearing of my property, I did no clearing of my property. What was stated was absolutely incorrect. My property, as it was purchased and as it was recorded by Fulton, under Fulton County, was a flag lot. I have a 30-foot access from Birmingham Highway back to my property. That is my only access back to my property. So I just want to make it clear that what was stated was incorrect. Thank you.
So the applicant could be added the same amount of time
Yeah,
if they
we'll-
need it.
We'll add 20 seconds. There you go. Talk fast.
Okay. I just want to say, Mark Stanley, 490 Arcaro Drive. I just want to say that the developer is talking about this as if it's an extension of Arcaro, the adjacent property. It is not an extension of Arcaro. Even the original developer actually signed an agreement to abandon the right-of-way. So we're talking about, this is not like the Triple Crown, Phase 4. That's not what this is. It's apples and oranges. Completely different. Thank you.
If I may. If I may. Okay, thank you. With regard to the school buses, the applicant is more than willing to make any improvements to facilitate school bus access. If that requires some improvements to the roundabout, we'll agree to that and submit that as a condition. And then finally, there was an attempt to abandon this right-of-way several years ago, and the city specifically denied it, said, nope, we need the road. So it's y'all's road, we'd like to use it, and we respectfully request your approval of this application. Thank you.
I move we close public comment.
Second. All in favor?
Aye. Robin,
Yeah.
who owns that road? 100%. Can you tell
Well,
us?
currently, I just spoke to the Public Works Director today. Based on the requests for the application for abandonment, we've requested a full title search by the attorneys, and we have not received that yet. The process for, if you want to know, would you like to know?
Yeah, absolutely.
I don't want to be presumptuous. Basically, there's an abandonment policy. I do have a copy of it. But in general, once there's a request, it's brought in by the Public Works Department, as well as it will be on the meeting on January 6th, the City Council meeting, not for consideration to abandon, but just as a notification that a request has come in, and to give that information to the council. And then after that is done, then further investigation and evaluation will be made of the request.
So we just don't know 100%, correct? I mean, I just don't want to base a judgment on this development without knowing.
I mean, the Public Works Director felt like it was necessary to order the title search.
Okay.
I'm going to make sure I heard you correctly. There is a request for abandonment?
Yes,
before
there
the
is.
city?
There is. That was in our report.
And who's made the request?
Citizen of Acaro, the original one, yes.
So how long will it be before we know the answer to that question?
The Public Works Director was hoping by the 6th there would be a confirmation of it, but he said things are a bit slow. But we're hoping by the 6th we would know true ownership of it. Again, that's just the beginning of that process. So.
The 6th of January?
Correct.
So we really don't have sufficient information at this point to determine whether this is or is not abandoned property.
Well, currently it's represented as being a road, but because of the request for abandonment, we're just dotting our I's and crossing our T's to make sure that it is truly, to abandon something, we need to make sure we own it.
Correct.
Okay. Does Piedmont Atlantic Capital LLC currently own the property, or is this ownership dependent upon the approval of the CUP?
I'd have to ask the applicant.
I'm sorry, sir.
Does Piedmont Atlantic Capital LLC actually own the property, or is that
It's under contract.
transaction contingent upon the approval of the CUP?
It's under contract. I'm not sure if it's contingent upon the zoning, but it is under contract, and the applicant is not the owner of the property yet.
Is not the owner of the property yet?
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you.
But I have a question for you, too.
Yes, sir.
What if this right-of-way here is considered abandoned? What would be the applicant's plan for the property?
Well, if the right-of-way is considered abandoned and is abandoned by the city, we have two options. Is either one, tie in through a Acaro, or two, have a curb cut directly onto Birmingham Highway. And then y'all would have to decide, is a CUP an appropriate zoning for this property?
I have a question too. I asked the applicant before, can you fit 17 homes, AG1, on this?
Yes. Our engineer's confirming yes. But again, it has to do with the setbacks. Can we craft the setbacks on those lots?
On AG1.
Correct.
You had mentioned that you would meet the existing Arcaro development standards, and one big difference is existing Arcaro has 30-foot minimum front yards. This is proposed to be 20. Are you saying that you'll meet the 30?
The differences originally proposed was a rear yard setback of 30 feet versus the existing Arcaros of 50. We can comply with that. Front yard of 20 on this proposal versus Arcaros of 30 feet. We can do that. Lot width of 75 feet versus Arcaros 90 feet. We can do that. The density is lower. We're asking for a lower density than Arcaro. And then side yard, we can meet Arcaros, which I believe are 10 feet. Is that correct?
That's correct. Their side yard is 10 feet.
Okay.
And there was a difference of the minimum perimeter setback for the development. You're asking for 30, but Arcaro is 90. Did I hear that correctly?
I believe, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, Acaro for 90 is a lot width at building line. The perimeter building setback for Acaro is 50, and then rear yard is 50. And the dimensions or the setbacks, what staff is recommending is a 50-foot setback adjacent to AG1, which would reflect Acaro. That's not what they asked for originally.
Right.
And then along the western portion, I believe most of it is a stream buffer, so it's by default more than 50.
Right.
So,
I got a question on that real quick. On the conditions, what's the difference between I and J? I mean, you got 50 feet for adjacent to AG1, but then minimum is 30.
well, so basically, J would go away because by default,
Yeah.
well, excuse me, I'm sorry. Rear is 10, yeah, it pretty much goes away, because if you have a rear along the south property line adjacent to the existing Acaro, well, no, it would be 30. So really the rear is that and that.
It's
So
like
it
12,
does
just like
go away.
lots 12 and 11, if you look at their map.
Right. So they would be required to do, let's say if it was a rear 30, but then we already have a perimeter of 30, so it's a moot point. Because then the north property line, we're recommending 50.
Right, okay.
Yeah.
Even though the map they submitted to shows 30, right?
Right. But we're asking for some amendments to that.
What's the story with the home that's remaining?
Yeah, lot 10.
I haven't driven by there in a long time. I don't understand what that's all about.
It will initially be used as a sales office until the rest of the lots are sold, and then it will be removed and a new
sorry.
lot, a new home built.
And Robin, did I, actually, this is a question for the applicant. Did I hear you say that in condition L, that you were not willing to agree to the 40-foot undisturbed buffer? You were asking for 30?
We're asking for 30 just to be able to, when undisturbed, we can't even grade it, so we're asking for an additional 10 feet to be able to grade. Which again is larger than the 0 that you would get with the AG1. So
Robin, what was the average size, square footage of the houses in Triple Crown?
The minimum heated or the average built?
Average built.
I believe what they were stating was between 4,500 and 5,000.
Right.
That's my recollection.
So we're looking at that, and we're saying that this is only going to be 2,500. Is that correct? 2,500 square feet?
that's correct. We did look at the Fulton County tax records, which they're difficult to judge because they include finished basement space. So when you look at the I mean, most of the phase 1 of our Caros coming in around 5,000 square feet. Some have finished basements, some don't, so it's hard to tell where that is.
So,
Yeah, it's not quite the
Go-
same.
yeah,
No, it's not.
yeah.
That's where I was.
I mean, 20, so. can you
May I,
tell
may
me
I,
the-
uh, my name is Craig Harper. I'm the applicant and developer.
We agree to introduce him.
We originally just asked for that because it was,
He can't, we have to agree to introduce him.
Yeah. You can't speak right at this point in time, I wouldn't think.
Well, he's part of the applicant. He's one of the, he's the developer
okay.
for the
He
applicant.
wasn't a part of the presentation unless we're asking for something specific from him. I don't know that he's entitled to speak.
No, he would as an applicant.
Yes, if
He
he's.
can tell me
yeah.
on the minimum
If
square.
I did
Just like an
I did
engineer.
introduce him as part of our
Yeah.
team as well.
Yeah.
I think he's willing to discuss.
And he has a card he submitted for if he spoke.
I think the question was, why do we have 2,500 square feet? And it's just because it's consistent with what our Caro had. My intention is to build,
Well, the minimum.
excuse me,
No, these
my
are-
intention is to build, is to
Please-
have
please
built
don't
homes
respond to
that
this.
are consistent in size, in finish, four-sided brick. We intend to be completely consistent with what is in our Caro currently. Trust me on this, the land and the lot prices are such that these homes will be priced from anywhere from $750,000 on up to $1 million, just like our Caro. Thank you.
I have a quick question, and I totally understand that, but why 2,500 square feet?
Well, the other one was 2,800.
Yeah, I mean, I guess.
Triple Crown was 2,800. I mean, this is a, no, the first
Okay.
one the
First
first
one.
one we listened to earlier was 2,800 minimum heated. This one's 2,500 minimum.
I'm just curious where you got that number from, that's all.
Our Caro's numbers.
It's
But again,
the
it became-
minimum heated area.
Okay.
It doesn't mean
not
that
a
that's what
match. I
they're
got it.
building.
It's not the
Let me just say this, there is no way we can build a 2,500 square foot home
Okay.
for what we're paying for the land. It just doesn't make sense. We're going to build the same thing that's in our
Where
Caro.
was that? Thank you.
Thank you.
We've got an issue we have to deal with.
Yeah, we don't know who owns the.
Who owns the road?
Yeah, I mean,
And we, regardless of whether CUP or AG1 makes sense and whether the conditions that we are or aren't agreeing to, I think it's all moot until we understand who owns the road, whether or not there's going to be access.
I agree.
I make a motion that we defer RZ 13-18 until the next planning commission meeting.
second.
Or until it's
Good.
determined.
Yeah.
Or until the road's determined.
How would you like to say that, Rob?
Yeah.
Well, I need to advertise or let the public know. I mean, you could go to 60 days if you want to, but, I mean, hopefully we'll have the title search done
Right.
by the next, which is the 29th of January. It's fairly late next month, so.
So that would give you enough time to advertise?
Right, but I'm just saying that hopefully in the end that we would have enough time for the title search would come back by then, the 29th. I'm just saying if for some reason it didn't, we just defer it again.
Right.
But I don't want to,
Keep.
I can't just let it out, indefinitely until we get word. I'd feel more comfortable if there was a stop date for the next meeting.
Well, then leave the motion stand with
Yeah.
30
I
until
second it.
the next meeting.
I second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
So this will be deferred to the January 29th
Yeah.
meeting. We'd like to take a 5-minute recess.
Okay, that's fine, go ahead.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
You know what, just make sure that the speakers are on, okay, so just.
Yeah.
Right. Until you, your color comes out. Yeah, I know why. It's on the can't put 6 hours. It's all this slopes. Yeah, oh, I know. I agree. There's no way we could put that number out. Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, thank you. Hi, how are you? Hi, Laura. Anybody else for RZ 1319 or Highway 9 for Clark? I have yours, sir.
I still don't understand how they. All right, thank you. Oh, sorry. That's again.
If I had 3 doors, 3 doors. That has to be a.
You ready?
We're ready.
You want to read it?
Oh, yes, I'm sorry, I was just like, just sorry, Kathy. That's okay. This is a request, RZ 1319, to rezone from office institutional to TR, to develop 24 single-family detached homes on 5.3 acres at an overall density of 4.53 units per acre. Kathleen Fields will present staff report.
Thank you. Mr. Chairman, you have it on the slide in front of you outlined in red the subject site. The current zoning is the northern part of, there are 4 parcels included, and the northern parcels are zoned O and I. The southern parcels are part of the form-based code that was established for the Deerfield area, and they are T5 zoned. The future land use map shows this area as a mixed use, and then we show it again as part of the land use plan that was amended for the Deerfield area, which again includes those 2 southern parcels. The revised site plan was submitted on December the 3rd. Subject site and background. The subject site contains 5.3 acres and is undeveloped. The total subject site was rezoned OI, Office Institutional, pursuant to RZ 07-10 for 28,104 square feet at a total density of 5,332 square feet per acre of general office for the 4 parcels totaling 5.3 acres. However, the 2 parcels to the south, representing 1.64 acres, are within the T5 Urban Center Zone form-based code, while the 2 remaining north parcels, which total 3.84 acres, remained O&I. Therefore, the 2 north parcels remaining O&I at 5,333 square feet per acre gives the 2 north parcels a total of 20,489.76 square feet of general office on 3.84 acres. The 2 south parcels under T5 Urban Center Zone form-based code are allowed a total of 33,210 square feet of commercial, office, or retail on 1.64 acres, or 9 units per acre residential. The site is located within the mixed-use designation on the city's future land use map and transitional zone per the Highway 9 Georgia 400 Area Master Plan. Based on the applicant's revised site plan submitted to the Community Development Department on December the 3rd, staff offers the following considerations. The site plan indicates a compliance with the development standards for TR, Townhouse Residential. Staff will require that a minimum 20-foot setback from the garage door to the back of the curb be provided in order to ensure that the sidewalk is not blocked by a vehicle parked in the driveway. Secondly, a minimum of 4 spaces shall be provided for each residence based on the fact that the widths of the private streets are not sufficient to provide on-street parking. Other site plan considerations. It has been the City Council's policy in the past where there has been development along Highway 9 to provide a black 4-board black equestrian fence not exceeding 55 inches in height. More recently, the recommended design for the equestrian fence may include a cone as described in the Highway 9 design guidelines. Arborist comments. The site is predominantly pine trees with a hardwood stand along northern property line. An open area runs through the center of the site. 30-foot setbacks are nicely vegetated and should remain undisturbed as much as practical. There are 11 specimen trees on site, and if removed or encroached on, will require recompense. The site plan submitted shows removal of 8 of the 11 specimen trees. Common areas along Highway 9 should be preserved if possible and or planted in a natural clustered setting. Recompense will be 164 4-inch trees if all specimen trees are removed. A bond for recompense will be required. Staff notes that in the previous rezoning pursuant to RZ 07-10, A condition of zoning was included to preserve 3 trees on the site identified as 1, 5, and 6. The exhibit will be included at the end of the staff report. Fire marshal report. There are no outstanding fire code issues associated with the proposed rezoning as they are now presented. Public Works. Bicycle and pedestrian facilities on State Route 9 are not shown in accordance with City of Code ordinances. Entrance location, striping, and turn lanes are subject to GDOT approval. Entrance configuration to be coordinated with projects PI 00078838 and PI 00122625. The estimated impact on students as generated by this development is estimated to be between 17 to 27 students. The FISCO analysis shows that over a 20-year period, the difference between the revenue generated through taxes versus the cost to service this project will be negative $122,174. Public involvement. On December the 4th, the applicant was present at the Community Zoning Information Meeting held at Milton City Hall. There were 6 members of the community in attendance. Other public comments. Staff has spoken to the owner of Superior Indoor Comfort, which abuts to the north and is currently zoned M1 manufacturing. He was concerned that the new homes would be protected from his business. Also, a resident of Belmead subdivision to the east was concerned about the connection of sewer via an existing sewer easement in the subdivision. Public participation report. The applicant hosted a public participation meeting on Thursday, December 12th at the Woodward Kroger Community Room. No one was in attendance. There was a courtesy review held by the Design Review Board on December the 3rd, and their comments included that the area was envisioned to have more of a walkable retail use, that the development should comply with the Highway 9 Deerfield form-based code, and dwellings should be subject to staff review. Standards of review, whether the proposal is in conformity with the policies intent of the land use plan. On the future land use map, the 2 south parcels are in a transitional area as amended by the Highway 9 400 area master plan. The 2 north parcels, it shows it to be mixed use on the comp plan. And then, of course, there is the future development area pending on the master plan, and that really relates to the 2 northern parcels, which are still in a review period to complete the master plan for those 2 northern parcels. The proposed use density, single-family residential at 4.53 units per acre. The Milton City Council adopted the comprehensive plan on June 2011. The future land use plan was amended for the 2 south parcels of subject site upon the adoption of the Highway 9 Georgia 400 Area Master Plan of April 2012. For the Highway 9 Georgia 400 Area Master Plan amendment, the 2 south parcels of subject site are transitional for primarily small single-family residential and limited neighborhood serving retail and office. These parcels were subsequently designated T5 Form-Based Code Overlay District to reflect the vision of the master plan. The 2 north parcels of subject site are currently being considered in the North Highway 9 Visioning Study, which is not yet adopted. Currently, the future land use map shows the 2 north parcels of subject site as mixed use and within the future development area pending a master plan. Based on the recent designation of the 2 south parcels of subject site to Form-Based Code T5 Overlay District and the pending master plan for the 2 north parcels, the request to rezone to TR Townhome Residential is not consistent with the future vision for the subject site. Whether there are other existing or changed conditions affecting the use and development of the property which give supporting grounds for either approval or disapproval of the proposal. Although the proposed development is consistent with adjacent and nearby zonings and developments, the vision for the future of Highway 9 is not to replicate what already exists along the corridor, but to enhance it. The intent is to implement a form-based code to specify the desired architectural and site design. The 2 south parcels have been designated T5 form-based code zoning recently, and the 2 north parcels are currently being considered in the North Highway 9 Visioning Study, which is not yet adopted. Given these considerations, it is ground to recommend denial for the proposed TR Townhouse Residential zoning developed as single-family residential. Conclusion. Although the proposed development is consistent with adjacent and nearby developments in the area and appears to meet the required development requirements, it is inconsistent with the intent of the Form-Based Code Overlay District and the vision for the corridor. Therefore, staff recommends denial of RZ 13-19 to rezone from OI Office Institutional TR Townhouse Residential to develop a 24-lot, single-family residential subdivision. If the mayor and city council recommends approval, staff provides the following recommended conditions. If this petition is approved by the mayor and city council, it should be TR Townhouse Residential conditional, subject to the owner's agreement to the following enumerated conditions. 1, to the owner's agreement to restrict the use of subject property as follows: single-family detached dwellings and accessory uses and structures. No more than 24 total single-family dwelling units at a maximum density of 4.53 units per acre, whichever is less based on the total acreage zoned. Approved lot unit totals are not guaranteed. The developer is responsible through site engineering to demonstrate that all lot units within the approved development meet or exceed the development standards of the City of Milton. 2, to the owner's agreement to abide by the following: to the revised site plan received by the Community Development Department on December the 3rd. Said site plan is conceptual only and must meet or exceed the requirements of the zoning ordinance and all other applicable city ordinances, and these conditions prior to the approval of a land disturbance permit. Excuse me. B, all areas which are not part of an individual lot and held in common shall be maintained by a mandatory homeowners association, whose proposed documents of incorporation shall be submitted to the Director of Community Development for review and approval prior to the recording of the first final plat. To the owner's agreement to the following site development considerations. Excuse me. Minimum lot size shall be 5,000 square feet. Minimum heated floor area shall be 2,000 square feet. Each lot shall provide a total of 4 parking spaces. Minimum setback from the garage door to the back of the sidewalk shall be 20 feet. Provide a black 4-board equestrian-style fence along Highway 9 interior to the landscape strip or as approved by the Director of Community Development. Provide landscape open space with plantings approved by the city arborist along Route Highway 9 interior to the new right-of-way as shown on the revised site plan submitted on December 3rd. Preserve trees identified as 1, 5, and 6 on the exhibit attached, RZ 07-10. To the owner's agreement to abide by the following requirements, dedication, and improvements. Dedicate at no cost to the City of Milton or Georgia Department of Transportation prior to the approval of land disturbance permit sufficient land as necessary to provide the following. Provide at least 55 feet of right-of-way from the center line of State Route 9 along the entire property frontage, or as may be required by GDOT. 1, proposed right-of-way shall be located no less than 12 feet behind back of curb of proposed frontage infrastructure improvements. 2, back of the sidewalk shall be no more than 1 foot inside the proposed right-of-way. Provide bicycle and pedestrian improvements along entire property frontage of State Route 9 according to cross-sections of Chapter 48, streets, sidewalks, and other public places of the City of Milton Code of Ordinances and is approved by the Department of Public Works. Subsection 3, installation and modification of the following transportation infrastructure according to GDOT standards in Chapters 48, streets, sidewalks, and other places of the City of Code of Ordinances. 1, northbound right turn lane on State Route 9 at New Access Drive. 2, southbound left turn lane on State Route 9 at New Access Drive. Reserve for the City of Milton sufficient land and entrance configuration necessary to provide for compliance with the comprehensive transportation plan. Proposed State Route 9 widening project and proposed intersection improvement project at Bethany Bend. Access to the site shall be subject to the approval of the GDOT and City of Milton Public Works Department prior to the issuance of a land disturbance permit. Provide a 40-foot wide cross-access easement free of any structures or above-ground utilities for future vehicular and pedestrian interparcel access on a north property line as required and approved by the City Department of Public Works. And this is an exhibit showing the trees on there that the arborist is recommended to be saved. And that is it.
Mr. Jensen, can you close the door so when we start?
Any questions? No questions.
Okay.
Okay, the applicant is Mr. Mike Busher.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Mike Busher. I work with Ashton Woods Homes. Our business address is 3820 Mansell Road, Suite 300, Alpharetta, Georgia. I'm also the Vice President of Land Acquisition and Development for the company. Tonight we bring forth a request to rezone 5.3 acres of land located at 13941 Cumming Highway to a TR designation. I'm going to try to keep my presentation short, hit some highlights, and then hopefully reserve some time for some Q&A. Though the application is TR, it's really only in name only. This is for a single-family detached residential site. The TR designation enabled us to get a critical mass that was important, but I think to the naked eye, you may review that and see townhome, and that would be expected, but it is for detached homes. We started out with a plan that included 31 lots, and then we worked that back to the 24-lot plan that you see tonight. Anticipated square footages here will be between 2,400 and 3,200 square feet, with anticipated pricing in the 3s to 4s. A note about anytime we go and contrast the future land use map, obviously our intent is to always find opportunities which are in compliance and comport with the future land use map. An example, when the overlay district was created for the downtown area, we purchased arguably the most significant tract in Milton, which was the Lee property. And over the course of about a year, we've worked with city staff to develop not only a site plan, but a set of architectural designs that are in keeping in compliance with that vision. And so we are a developer who not only gets the program, but we embrace it. And throughout the consequence or course of working with staff, have come some elevations that are certainly very different than maybe what we would have done on our own, and better. Occasionally, you find a site that is compelling to perhaps consider, and so this one I think falls into that category. The parcel, is made up of four different tracts, but it's really only 5 acres. So in the report, it's maybe a little confusing how it references northern tracts and southern tracts, but it's a pretty confined space that we're talking about in 5 acres. But what drew us to it is that this site went into foreclosure. Bank now owns it. It's a little bit challenged from the standpoint of its elevation to the street. Retail, for whatever reason, has avoided it. And so after I think a 2-year-long search from the bank to engage retail buyers, they've come back to us as a builder that has had some track record in Milton and said, would we have an interest in the possibility of developing it? And of course, we did. Our vision is to comply with the intent of the mixed-use component of the plan by providing small lot single-family residential, and that's articulated in the staff report, in a way that's enhancing the existing neighborhood residential that's there. What is hard to reconcile completely is the way in which the residential will align with the CVS to the south and then the M1 to the north. When Kathleen and Robin and I met 3-4 months ago, as we do before we get involved in a site, they were pretty candid in saying that, the form-based code, you're sort of trapped, and I'm sort of paraphrasing, but you're sort of trapped in that the form-based code hasn't really come online yet, but we're probably going to hold you to that standard because that's the vision of where we're going, but it's not in place today. And although your single-family detached residential isn't out of step with what's going on in the area, we obviously would like to see mixed use. Well, hard to make a mixed-use project, we think, work within that confines of the 5 acres. And so that's the reason or the rationale as to how we arrived here tonight. Our read of the staff report, or my read of it, was that there wasn't necessarily a universal rejection to the idea of residential here. I think what it said very clearly was we don't want more of the same. What I hope the compromise could be is that we're a builder that would be willing to look at ways to make meaningful architectural attempts to create something that's within the fold and something that the community can be proud of, while still making something that's marketable. That still remains on the table for us to do. As a way of objections, it was noted that throughout the course so far, we haven't had much in the way of significant opposition to the site. There may be some folks here tonight that I haven't spoken with, and if so, then be happy to speak more with them. We did hear the one Bellmead subdivision resident who had concerns about a sewer easement. I just wanted to note that sewer easement was in place and entitled long before we ever became involved with the property. This wasn't an easement that we've gone out and either attempted to get or that is slated. It is simply in place. What we did do was survey it so that it wasn't a surprise to those residents. But I suspect you may hear from someone tonight about that, and what I've said to him is that I'm happy to show where that area of impact would be and walk it with him, but that the fact that it's entitled was not something that necessarily should be new to him. It would be part of his original title search. And then I also expect if there is opposition, you may hear the same arguments about the danger of a precedent-setting decision. What I may say to that is that we went through a process about 2 years ago, right? Actually, maybe closer to 3, on Highway 9 on a similar property. It was you may recall, a property across from Crooked Creek subdivision that was a former landscape site, and we ultimately rezoned it to a similar classification. You may take from that we feel entitled to do it again. It's hardly the case. And this is the process, and if this site doesn't work, then we move on. But just to the point of precedent-setting decisions, we've been the beneficiary of that decision, but it doesn't entitle us at all to that right now, and we'd certainly go through the process like anybody else would. And I'll reserve my time for further comments. Thank you.
Okay, we have 2 people in opposition. Mr. Yuriv Konnikov.
Good evening. My name is Yuri Konnikov. I live on the 3345 Cedar Farms Court, Milton, Georgia. Subdivision Willamette Farms. Subdivision adjacent to this lot, applicant lot.
Excuse me. Please speak into the mic a little bit. We can't hear you.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Okay. Should I repeat it? I have a big concern about the sewer line, what applicants is going to build through our subdivision. Our subdivision, pretty old subdivision, and we have very big old trees on the easement lane. I made several pictures to show how they are big and how they are close to our homes. Could you pass it?
Yes.
So when the builder will remove those trees, it's very high possibility that those trees can fall outside of easement lane and damage our property, like our lawns, trees, even houses. I built my subdivision, I built my house in this subdivision, and I could see how the builder removed the trees. They're using bulldozer to remove trees, so the trees can fall any place outside of the easement lane, so they can damage our homes. You can see on the picture how close are they. Another concern that the planning sewer line should go across our water lines. So some of our water lines and water meters in the framework of the easement lane, and also the main water line also across the planning easement line, sewer line. So it's possible to have some interruption of the water service during this construction. It will affect our lives. And also the planning sewer line across the street in our subdivision, so it should be blocking or temporary, totally blocking of the road inside the subdivision. So I would like to ask a member of the board to don't allow the builder or applicants to build the sewer line across existing subdivision to avoid the possible issues during construction and some troubles in our lives related to the possible issues during period of building sewer line. Thank you.
The next speaker is Laura Weissong.
Good evening. Hi, I'm Laura Weissong. I'm at 14305 Milton. I live in Crooked Creek. We are about a half a mile from this property. A couple of items I just want to reiterate with Kathy and her staff. I think they did a great job. I am thoroughly in agreement with the denial, as are most of the homeowners in my neighborhood. I've been participating on the Highway 9 visioning sessions, and as Kathy noted earlier, those sessions, the community, those who have participated, which has been a fairly large number of individuals from most of the communities in that area, and not just Crooked Creek, that would include 5 Acres, Lake Laurel, and some others up and down the corridor. They want to see this property be the mixed-use retail concept, very much of more of a crabapple looking concept. Unfortunately, we got stuck with a lot of awful looking stuff from Fulton County, and what the community wants to do is get that changed into the future, so that's why we're developing a plan. We're just not quite there yet. So the reality of the situation is, that is what the community wants to see. And, I'm somewhat troubled by the numbers that they came up with a negative base. That's concerning. Our city needs tax dollars, and business and retail are the best way to accomplish that. We need to continue doing that. We need to do it in an appropriate manner. And I think, we only have a certain number of those parcels around, and this is one the community wants to be developed in a very nice mixed-use way so that we can get a walkable community. We don't have that. The other issues with this area is, like Kathy said, it is transitional. We just approved right down the road in Bethany Bend 28 homes. We're going to have a significant traffic problem. We already have one. It's going to be worse. So we need to look at everything we're doing in big totality here. We've got to look at the bigger plan. We are looking at piecemeal parcels. I understand we have developers that want to develop. We all have property rights, including them, and so do we. We are taxpayers. But this has to be done in the bigger picture. We need to know, what do we want to do? Well, that's what we're trying to accomplish. We are deciding what we want to do with that land, and we want to go forward with the plan. This is a little premature, I believe, and I think we need to look at the issues that abut this property, particularly the traffic is just a very big issue, and the impact on the schools, very concerning. Those numbers, as I think they stated on the Birmingham area, they're way low, and the impact's going to be much higher. The density on this is just too high, and frankly, we just don't need any more of that type of home. We need some retail, some usable space. And, I've heard the developers say we can't do the mixed-use thing. I believe, I'm a business person in this community. I work with other folks in this community that are business folks. We can find a developer that'll build something that'll work, because there's a lot of people who are willing to spend some money. And we need to keep the dollars here versus going over to Alpharetta. So that's what we want to do. So thanks again, Kathy, and the staff's work. I'm in very much agreement with you. Thank you. I appreciate your time.
Rebuttal.
Yeah, I think those are pretty thoughtful points. I did look at, I tried to look at what kind of vacancy we had with respect to commercial space in the area, and it looks like we have roughly 275,000 vacant square foot of retail space within a 3-mile radius. So there is space to get through. That doesn't diminish the point. I understand it, and also just again, I'm not suggesting that you can't develop a mixed-use proposal for a 5-acre site. Some may. I couldn't figure out how to do it with our business plan, but I respect the opinion.
Yeah.
Just quickly, based on that comment, yes, there is space, but I think the issue with the space is haphazard selling. I work on the sales side too. I think you got to plan what you want in there and go out and get the right retailers and the right folks. That has not happened. And so if you do like what's going on in Alpharetta and Roswell, it can happen and it can work. And I think that's what we want to do. And I think there's some business folks in the community that are willing to do that. We'd love to find developers that are willing to work with us. So thank you.
Any other motion?
I move we close public comments.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Questions for the applicant? No questions?
Well, one thing I think that we've talked about before, these numbers as far as tonight alone, as it relates to the schools, is so far out of realism. I mean, I just can't believe them. So we've got to do something about getting some accurate numbers as it relates to schools. Because I'd already totaled up almost as many as were shown on this property from the ones in the previous. So that's.
I have a question for staff. Robin or Kathy, the concern expressed by, and I'm sorry if I'm not getting the pronunciation correctly, Mr. Konikoff? Yes, about during the course of the development, with the way the sewer line is being addressed, where it either crosses or is adjacent to their water supply and or sewer of their own, is that going to be an issue regardless of what development comes here, or is that?
I'm opposed to build a sewer line across our subdivision because it affects our lives and put in the danger our properties. Because if you can see, I gave some pictures. Yeah. So you can see our lots are very old, and trees are pretty big, and the height of trees is is bigger than the width of the easement lane.
Right.
So when the bulldozer will remove those trees, which is doing actually in real life, those trees can fall exactly in the framework of the easement lane, so they can fall any place. Right. I could see this because I built my house 11 years ago in this subdivision. I could see that. So that is pretty big. They can fall over the houses and damage houses.
Okay.
Which is attached to this easement lane.
Okay.
And also, yeah.
Thank you.
It's pretty dangerous. So the builder will not remove those pine trees like one by one. They will use bulldozer, which is a regular way to remove trees on the construction site.
Right. Okay. Thank you.
Okay. The question, there is a sewer easement that was placed on the plat for Bellmead, so there is a right to bring sewer through it. So I think that his concern is how it's going to affect.
Right. Yeah.
His, I'm sorry.
No, it's good agreement.
Right.
Okay. Thank you.
Robin, we've seen this property before, correct?
Correct. This was zoned, I believe in 2008, from AG1 to office institutional for a bank as well as offices, so yes.
Did that include all of this?
It was the exact same
It is the
replica
exact.
of the same 4 parcels, yes.
How did we end up with this split then?
Well, I think it was just an oversight. Because they were never combined after the rezoning, because obviously it was never built. So, but I think Kathy could also address that, the future Highway 9 North would have very similar proposed development.
Yeah, I mean, the Deerfield overlay only covers
That's
the 2
right.
bottom parcels.
Right.
The top 2 are still zoned O&I, and they will be covered by the new master plan that you haven't seen yet, but we're
Sure, okay.
writing. And so that will be coming to you in the next month or so. And so those 2 parcels will be captured at that time. But you
Just the
can
north,
anticipate
just the north two.
the north two.
Got it.
Yeah.
And I think
Right.
basically in the comp plan where that zoning line was, it matched up with the retail that was across the street.
Right, it was a
So it got those last
perfect
2
parallel,
parcels.
yes.
Yeah.
So it didn't get the northern
Right.
part.
Didn't get the 2 northern, but based on the community visioning exercises that we have done with the community, they are looking at a mixed-use type of land use, which will be converted into a zoning category to reflect that. So that's where we're going with it. We haven't got there yet. So if that's helpful, that's all I can tell you.
But whether it be mixed use or that, the tree situation, which as I recall back now,
Right, that's why we
was
included that.
one of the big hangups, was the number of trees that had to be destroyed no matter what went into this location.
I kind of want to give this form-based code a chance, kind of like what we talked about previous one.
Also, I think, if I may, the T5 does not even allow a single-family detached product, so.
That's where I was gonna go with it next.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
That's fine.
And it's a rear-loaded product as well, so.
Yeah.
It allows residential, but a totally different type of residential.
We didn't close.
No.
No,
We were
no, we're
closed.
fine.
I'd like to make a motion that we support staff's recommendation for denial of RZ 13-19 for a variety of reasons, not least of which is to allow the balance of our study area to be completed and to not be inconsistent with our form-based code plan that we'd like to see implemented in this area. And if we put this in now, we don't give it a chance to get off the ground. So that's my recommendation.
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
So, you all have before you, the 2014 Planning Commission schedule, and I apologize for the constant emails of tweaking things, but.
Where's my inbox?
Rapid fire.
Hey, the schedules, I'm not talking about the
Oh.
other stuff. Okay. Okay.
Sorry.
Okay, so we'll put it in for the next, yes. Based on the experience of this year and just in general, what other jurisdictions, let me just talk about a little bit of the tweaks that we made for the Planning Commission schedule, is that well, actually, there's not very many tweaks to your actual meeting. It's still on Wednesdays, except for, well, they're always on Wednesdays. But we propose not to have a December meeting for 2014. Both in November and December, because of the Thanksgiving and Christmas holidays, our schedule gets compressed by a week, so we're actually meeting a week earlier. And then it interferes as well with me preparing, and Kathy, with the council meeting. So, and it's very typical for other jurisdictions not to have a zoning meeting in December, as well as to be able to make sure that all the public meetings are well established and there's no confusion, because again, we have to compress a lot of meetings together. A
Well, I
lot of
think
the,
the
I'm
community
sorry.
probably would not find that distasteful either, in the fact that they're trying to attend.
They're always gone.
Yeah, trying to attend has the appearance that we're trying to push stuff through during the holiday season when people aren't
That's
available.
correct. It's always.
Good point.
So, as well as in Fulton, I believe they didn't have a meeting in December as well, and I believe Kathy said Roswell didn't, and so it's very typical for that to happen. I guess it was always, in my sense of customer service, but now that things have started up again, it's just getting a bit difficult. So, also, a second part of it is you'll see the application filing deadline, which doesn't really affect you, but it does to staff, is to go back to a larger sign, and based on that and the requirement of advertising 2 weeks before the CZIM to have those signs custom made and ordered, we're going to pull the deadline for application up a week, so that we can, we've heard from constituents and just being able to see the signs more readily, and they're not coming down as easily. So, so this is the schedule. I did make the one correction, Commissioner Jameson, that I'd missed. And did I get it?
This is the corrected version?
Well, the first page, I believe, was correct for the, yes. So if you look at 129.14 and then 129.14, yes, that's correct. That's a Wednesday. So if you see anything else, please let me know.
Do we have to approve this? Is that?
You can make a motion to approve it. I mean, it's just more administrative. I just wanted to be able to get it in front of you and make sure you were okay with it. So.
I make a motion, we approve the 2014 calendar as presented by staff.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay.
Motion to adjourn?
Okay, motion.
Second.
Okay, so Terry made the motion and
Yeah.
Chris seconded it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Good.